Hi everybody. This evening I'm going to do my 15th presentation on the deep state, and there they are. So I started these off with an interview between Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon about how we had to stop the unending wars, and in order to do that, we had to get rid of the deep state. So, of course, that begs the question of who and what is the deep state. So, that's what I've been going through in all of my different presentations. I did a whole bunch. Here are all of the links. This will be PDF'd and then put there'll be a link down below on the video. So you can just click into these and look at all of the different issues that I bring up. That's kind of the ideologies, the different problems, socioeconomic problems. Particularly, I'm focusing a lot on the economics, because basically, if everybody has a job and everybody can provide for themselves and live a decent life, then you can get to other issues. But as long as you have, fighting, people killing each other over resources, because that's basically what it comes down to. Either individuals or factions fighting over who is going to control the distribution and allocation of resources. You could look at it, all of the different, from Marx to the fascists. Well, we'll get into the fascist and what is fascism, because everybody's throwing that word around left and right like there's no tomorrow, and nobody knows what it means. But basically, you got fascism on the right, you got fascism on the left. It's just, fascism is basically, you can't listen to anybody else. That's why Charlie Kirk was like one of the few non-fascists out there. I was just listening to this one gentleman who said the difference with Charlie Kirk was that he actually listened to his opposition, took into account what they were saying, and responded appropriately instead of screaming at each other. Oh, I was watching The View and Maureen Callahan. We'll see some of that in here. And I was like, see what I mean? Yeah, it's not all of these politicians. Oh, I have some links to some of these. One that goes back to the Reagan era. My econ professor. I mean, if you look at the the academic discussions from then to today, you go, no wonder everybody was falling asleep and they needed cocaine back in the 70s and 80s. Now they're all on some Ritalin or Xanax. Yeah, this country's got to stop doping itself up on anything. I was speaking with a gentleman who does some stuff with the vets, and I'm like, just get everybody, the pharmaceutical companies, away from those people. That's not helping the situation whatsoever. So again, this is, economics. This slide remains in there because, as I say, it's all economics. And we have some serious problems in our banking system, financial markets. And this gets into the capital venture, the entrepreneurs. That's just let's make a deal. I feel like Bob Barker went out of control. So, excuse me. So, yeah, I have a lot of stuff to get through, because in this presentation, I'm doing Woodberry Forest, which is the brother school of my alma mater, Foxcroft. It's also the alma mater of my younger brother. And lo and behold, well, it's got lots and lots of names. So this school is going to take me a while to get through in presentations. I kind of sectioned them. It has the Bush family. So today we're doing the Bush family. But first, we're going to get a little bit into, once again, as I say, you know, the assassination. I got some questions about the assassination of Charlie Kirk because there are some real coincidences. I really want an economist and the statisticians to start putting together. I'll give you the okay, day before 9/11, he gets assassinated. The person who's talking just before he gets shot, right before he gets shot, the person who was speaking was talking about transgender, and then their cartridges. Gosh, sorry, my throat is a little like this when I talk. Uh, I get like Bobby Kennedy. His sister's voice is not much better. Oh Lord. So anyway, no offense, Bobby. No. Anyway, so the cartridges had some stuff, uh, I don't know, transgender, woke alt left, to give an indication, to leave evidence that it's political. I mean, there's just a lot of things. And I think everybody's listened to Trump, what he said, and that really, I was like, that was really inflammatory. And what I heard, it was the governor of Utah that I was like, that's what Trump should be saying, and that's what the official dialogue of the White House and of the administration should be. Um, when it happened in Utah, I thought of my sister. She's in these slides. She lives in Telluride, Colorado. And I mean, if anybody can criticize me about my criticism of the Catholics, my only defense is go and talk to my sister about the Mormons. Now, the shooter's parents are apparently Mormon. It's like, oh gosh, my sister's gonna have a field day with that one. Yeah, but this is something. Ooh, I was just listening to this with Megan Kelly, and I want y'all to listen to this.
So they actually listen to what we're saying. Stop calling us Nazis. Stop demonizing us for having completely within the mainstream thoughts about these hot button issues. Yeah, there are people out there, Megan, who believe that you performed a minstrel show. There are people out there who believe that you killed every single last transgender you could, and those people, if given a shot, would take it. Host Megan Kelly show on X. That's Megan Kelly. Let's talk about this with someone who's been on for a long time. Megan Kelly. Hey Megan, how are you? Oh, Steven, I'm hanging in there. How about you? Same. Same. What are your thoughts of, you're someone who's done this, obviously been in more traditional media, Fox News, and now independent media, more just media. So you've been here a long time. Is this something that's completely unexpected to you, or have you sensed this shift too? And so, unfortunately, something like this happened. Well, I mean, the threat profile has gone up for a lot of people who do what we do. I know you've experienced that. So have I. So have a lot of people who are doing it. But that doesn't change the fact that this feels like a before and after moment. You know, that, I don't know, with President Trump, it's not that you expected an assassination attempt on him, but we have seen that with political figures before, presidents before. I just don't remember anything like this, where one of our most prominent public thought leaders, who's not a politician, who's not running for office, who's just commenting on news and cultural events, has been shot down for doing that. There's no question now, in the wake of your reporting this morning, your exclusive, now matched ultimately by the Wall Street Journal too, that he was killed for his thoughts. He was killed for his speech. It's what they have to say. I couldn't care less. It's all about us and how we feel and what we're going to do next.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, for me, it's black and white. As much grace as possible for those on the right. Right now, because emotions are high. And I think you see people playing gotcha. Let's really avoid that. And zero grace for the left. None. Assume the worst of intentions going forward now. That's my opinion. Did you see just today? This just happened. Did you see CNN's coverage just now? The cultural issues? Cultural issues? Yeah.
That's what liars they are. It's like everyone knows, you know, at this point that they're so irrelevant and they're such just a dead medium. It just doesn't work and they're not trusted. They have no ratings and they have no one special. But I mean, so close to this, you want to be part of the problem. So close. It hasn't even been 24 hours and you want to lean into being part of the problem. Like we get the reveal, thanks to you, of what the motivation is, and that's where you want to go with it. You want to pretend it's something other than what it is. That's how we got here.
Yeah.
That's how we got into this mess. They are not going to be part of any solution.
No, they're not. There's no common ground. There's fighting back. And I think this has been my change. And I know that we don't agree on all political issues, by the way. That's good for you to be here. 5 years ago, if someone were to say, you know what, and again, I've been very clear, before you came on the show, not condoning, not supporting violence of anything just going out, not. 5 years ago, if someone said, man, it looks like it's blood in the streets, time to move, I would have been, whoa, that's a little bit sharp, that's a little radical. And not supporting it, not condoning it today, when someone says it seems like there's blood in the streets and it's inevitable, I don't, you know what? There are other ways, but I get it. I get it. Yeah. Does that seem extreme to you? It doesn't seem irrational to me. Because our blood has been all over the streets for a long time, and until someone dies, they don't give a shit. Excuse it.
And no, I know you're not rooting for it. I'm not rooting for it either. You're saying, as a practical matter, wouldn't that be the next logical thing to expect? Given how angry the right is, how victimized the right has been. I mean, truly, the left loves to play the victim. They love it when they're not. They invent fake ailments, disorders, etc., and claim victimization of white privilege and white anti-black racism all the time when it doesn't exist. We actually are being victimized. There's no other word for what happened to Charlie Kirk yesterday. He was hunted, and they victimized his beautiful wife and their beautiful children, and all of us who loved him and his message. That's actual victimization, a word I hate, but it happens to apply here. But they don't see it. You know, they don't see it. Like, I have had some people on the left reach out to me and say, I hope you're doing okay, I'm sorry, and whatever. I appreciate the sentiment, but like, until they actually listen to us, until they actually listen to what we're saying, stop calling us Nazis, stop demonizing us for having completely within the mainstream thoughts about these hot button issues. Yeah, fuck them.
Okay, I'll leave that there because, as I said, I got a lot to go through. You can watch that, but what's paradoxical? What I'm listening to Megan, I'm saying, yeah, in the sense that she means what she's talking about. But I'm like, yeah, Megan, you should also look in the mirror about what you're talking about when it comes to being a having it all feminist and canceling and participating in the denigration, marginalization, and hate crimes against opting in homemakers. Because this is really a lot where it's coming from. You know, you're jealous I mean, this goes into the second presentation or third presentation. I showed how because I hate when they say women moving into the workforce, because women have always worked in the workforce. It's just the upper crust. And even they worked at they had these huge castles and lands that they managed. So even they worked at this whole thing about somebody sitting around doing nothing. That didn't exist. That was only the vagrant at the side of the road. Everybody else was doing something. Yes, some of it was sitting on their tuffets and others were working out in the fields, but they were all still working. And everybody who wants to be a manager, this is what managerialism is. And, so all of these women moving in, she is just as much, that is just as much the feminism, and having it all feminism and wanting to replace men in the workplace is just as much responsible for all of the anger and the violence that's going on as the minorities. And in fact, that's why the feminists and the minorities are usually aligned. Megan Gelly's an exception. And, Trump, he used to be a Democrat when he was in, I mean, he is precisely the elitist Democrat, which is what overtook the Democratic Party, and everybody wants to be elitist, and that's why they're all fighting to be at the top of the heap. And while we'll see, even though the Trump administration is outright fascist, because as I say, fascism is a refusal to listen to the other sides and be entrenched in autocratic government and dictatorship. So really, they keep on using that word fascism without having a complete clear definition. I think Charlie Kirk would agree with me on all of this stuff. Give it a clear definition, and then we can discuss it. But throwing around like that. So that I'm kind of like, well, Megan Kelly, yeah, but also this also applies to you. I mean, she really piece of work. So, yeah. So this, oh gosh, there was a lot of things that I found. So again, as I said, what is fascism and freedom of speech? So here I did back in 2020, the Rise of the Fourth Reich by Jim Marrs, a book review on that one. And here, I'll play it real quick. This is one, is it too long? So anyway, I want to read something to you. It's the Rise of the Fourth Reich. So I think that's the first thing that people kind of have to understand. And looking at the whole picture here, because they have, when I read this book, I was like, oh yeah. And it's not on the right as much as the left. This is right. They're both extremists. gone too good. Oh Lord, has it been 5 years since? Oh, I never thought I'd still be here when I came back in 2009. I mean, I left this cesspool 20 years before that. And I've been back almost 20 years. Soon it'll be. I mean, my God. It's the place I've lived the longest and the place I hate the most. Go figure. Yeah, so anyway, because see, this is the Washington is a cesspool. You do not need to be a rocket scientist to understand that you cannot have the scum of the earth living together and multiplying. I mean, well, I'm not sure what it was. It was 1950. Washington was metro area was about 1 million. It's 6.3 million today. Yeah, the rats multiply. You cannot have a city filled with completely amoral people, greedy beyond any imagination, um, Machiavellian 101, and produce democracy. It's not possible. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that. Oh gosh, I was looking if Turning Point had like any chapters in DC that we could start. Let's see, we could do GW. Oh, please, kids, call me. I would love to give you all some tutorials. I'm not. We could train you all to be all little Charlie Kirks. And I will give you many, 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 many tutorials. Maybe with a guidance of Charlie up there on how to respond to let's see, we got Georgetown, GW. I mean, we got all sorts of like Arizona State or some, I mean, Pepperdine. I mean, there's all sorts of little campuses all over the place. Oh, please, you young kids, come and we'll have a field day in this city. Come forth and multiply. Come forth and multiply. Oh Lord. So yeah, so as I said, so 9/10, Charlie is shot. We've got Trump's speech on 9/11. I won't play that because that just but here is Candace Owens. What really happened on 9/11? Let's see, I forget how long this goes on, but oh, come on. Sorry, no money.
All right, happy Thursday, everybody, and boy, oh boy, do we have an episode for you today. First up, do you guys remember Lil RT? Was a 9-year-old who was rapping about guns and sex on YouTube, and YouTube was like totally fine with it. Well, it turns out that he may have a white counterpart. Yep, she's made her debut, singing along to Sexy Red. I'm guessing this girl has to be about 4 years old. I mean, we definitely have to blur her face. Trying my best here not to lose hope for America as she raps across the internet. And speaking of sweet, precious little white girls, that is exactly how JoJo Siwa began her life. Remember, she was on Dance Mom. She was so precious. We loved her. But today, and really ever since she came out and announced that she was a lesbian, her character has definitely shifted. Today we got her telling concert goers to lick her nuts. Yeah. But first, it's the conspiracy theory that never seems to go away. 9/11. Yes, the live chat yesterday was lit. They were demanding that we discuss it. You know what? I'm a chronic people pleaser, so let's do it. All that coming up on Candace.
Okay. Definitely worth watching. For the first part, this has got to stop. This has got to, a 4-year-old. And then the questions that are being asked about 9/11. I mean, this is kind of, it's almost becoming mainstream now. Whereas 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was still, you're crazy, you're crazy. The government wouldn't do that to their own people. As Candace explains in there, they brought the idea to JFK. You don't think that they would ever do that. They brought the idea to JFK, and let's see, one idea was they were going to blow up a ship, their own ship, their own people, in order to start a war with Cuba. I mean, okay, the names of the actors and the names of the countries change, but the situation and the very, very sick minds don't change. And JFK was like horrified and said, of course I'm not going to do that. So here, okay, George and Candace Owens reflect on Muslim and mainstream here. I don't know if I mistitled that. Oh shoot. But anyway, okay. So the issue kind of which I found unfortunate going back to the what I was talking about the shutting down the right and listening to other people and freedom of speech was this Matthew Todd. He was fired. Let's play this one. Sorry. Yeah. See, everybody wants to tell you something. Yeah. Star Trek. They even want to tell you something. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You hear this, Matt. I don't know. Somebody's indicating him something before, like, I don't know, interrupting him. Somebody might be saying something to her in her ear. But the thing was, if you listen to what he said, following up from what had been said. Now I looked all over for an entire, you know, the entire interview, and I couldn't find it on the internet. What I did find, which it doesn't jump it directly into him, but this is what I believe was what they were talking about before. So if you take it into context, yes, he obviously is not very familiar with Charlie Kirk, but that's par for the course. This is MSNBC. Yeah. Oh, and Matt Dodd is Maria Shriver's boyfriend. Maria Shriver was married to Schwarzenegger, if anybody, and she's of the Kennedy family, if anybody's not familiar with her. So that's also where are the Kennedy women on all of this? Yeah, what? So I wanted to play this because really he is being targeted and he is being unfairly just attacked where it was not exactly how shall I say it, and even apologized. He said, I no to Charlie Kirk's wife. But listen to the conversation beforehand.
Some breaking news from Utah that we want to get to right now. It's on fire during a speech by right-wing activist Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University in Orem. This happened literally just moments ago. Kirk was about 20 minutes into his speech when shots were fired from a nearby building. According to the university, there are reports that Kirk was hit, but as far as they know, but we're not clear on them tell us about Charlie Kirk? What was he doing at the university?
Well, he was on tour giving one of his speeches, part of his group trying like yesterday. The video showed that the crowd there was quite large. There were a lot of people who were in attendance. Not unusual because one of the most influential conservative leaders really in the MAGA movement nationwide. So this definitely comes as a surprise again for a lot of people who really don't know yet. I know we're just talking about the federal takeover of Washington that began after a number of the guilty was allegedly thrown to Washington. So it's going to be interesting to see what conservative leaders want to do there after this episode.
Yeah, we're showing, by the way, our affiliate in Utah and the aftermath of the shooting. You can see people running away pretty quickly, as you imagine they would do gunshots. The FBI director, Kash Patel, has weighed in on this. He just tweeted the following: "We're closely monitoring reports of the tragic shooting involving Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. Our thoughts are with Charlie, his loved ones, and everyone affected. Agents will be on the scene quickly, and the FBI stands in full support of the ongoing response and the investigation." Charlie Kirk is a divisive figure, polarizing, like you all, whatever term you want to use. Why?
Well, he's one of MAGA's most prominent voices online. He goes your daily podcast. He applies to almost everything. He's been very closely aligned with the president since he initially ran for office in 2015, 2016, and his ties to Trump really elevated his own brand. He was really quite young as an activist when the president launched his initial campaign, and he has kind of ridden along with MAGA since 2016 and built up a massive brand of his own. His group has brought in tons and tons of money, and really he has become, especially among younger people, one of the biggest voices that's on the right now.
And we operate a network of chapters across the country. 24 USA does over 3,500 universities nationwide. Earlier this year, 20 hosted a student action summit in Tampa, Florida, that amassed over 5,000 attendees. Why has he gotten so much support on these college campuses? I was talking actually to my son about this, that Charlie Kirk, in his belief, is the only young politician that is out there that meets kids where they are. He's not a politician, but affiliated in politics. And that the response to that has been pretty overwhelming.
He's really fully evolved, right? Like, there have not been very many younger conservatives who have spent as much time in and around college campuses as Charlie Kirk has. And that was the initial purpose of his entire group, even before he became attached to Trump and much more closely aligned with MAGA. The whole idea he had to start with was, let's convert younger college kids to the conservative path. And he has spent really the last decade, building out this network very specifically on college campuses. And I mean, look at the videos of this shooting from today, and the crowd there. I mean, it looks like it was at least several hundred, if not more than 1,000 people who were in attendance just to hear him speak.
Yeah. So, as I said, the point was to put into context what Matt Dow had said. I don't, obviously his tweets afterwards, he felt horrible that, saying, well, he didn't say this is justified by any means, but he just said that the environment that we are in is producing this. And so I do think he's been very, very unfairly attacked. I mean, if anybody saw it, oh gosh, I'm very always unpopular. Let's see, Prince Anwell started with Sean Penn in 2016 in his El Chapo Speaks article. Ooh, Lordy Lord, was I on opposite side of politically correct. Prince Andrew as well. He likes standing in claws. I know this. I really enjoyed. I put this in there. This in here. Charlie Kirk versus the Wokies at the University of Tennessee. I'm still looking at some of the stuff I had come across. I mean, I follow a lot of these people, and I had particularly loved. I had come across his, with these feminists and these women, these crazy women, don't know what they are, and just some crazy stuff. Now there are some crazies in here, but University of Tennessee, it was kind of relatively conservative, so it wasn't one of the more inflammatory encounters I think he had. But there was just brought up the spectrum of issues, and his response. I mean, he is not. He is precisely, I think, why he is so popular. Um, he confronts people, but he doesn't do so in a disrespectful manner. Joe Rogan is similar to that, and that's really, I think, where their popularity comes from. With across the spectrum, even people who might not necessarily agree with everything that, I mean, Joe Rogan is UFO stuff. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are like, yeah, Joe Rogan and his mushrooms. So, but he is, I don't think anybody would disagree that these two gentlemen are always respectful with everybody. So I do have a lot to go through. I'm going to play real quick because this is just a real sweet girl that I came across. She's a turning point. She will see her later. I think in the next slide. Oops. Oh my, sorry. Sorry. See, let's so.
Next generation who is here to show up and change culture forever for Charlie. I was extremely close to not doing a show today, to be honest, after just the weight of everything yesterday and carrying it with us as a family through the rest of the day. I just thought there's absolutely no way that we're going to be able to sit down and talk for so long. And after going for a walk and getting some fresh air and coming home and scrolling through social media, seeing just the outpouring of support and courage and joy from young people, from college students all over the country, I knew that our generation needed to see these images and see these videos so that we can continue to carry this torch forward together as an entire generation to continue changing our college campuses, our country, and the world. So those of you guys who might be new to following me, especially since joining the Daily Wire this week, gosh, I'm not just like saying that out loud. What a first week for a show. Wow. I've been active in the conservative movement for a very long time, and long before I ever felt called to media or to public speaking or to making content on the internet, I was just a college student. I was a pre-med biomedical sciences major on my campus at Colorado State University when, totally by happenstance, in the midst of feeling incredibly isolated in my community and feeling like no one around me in a sea of 33,000 students was hearing my values, that I was all alone as a young conservative, as a young Christian, as someone who was wanting to fight for free expression and academic diversity and challenging our perspectives, even from within the heart of one of America's largest college campuses in Fort Collins, Colorado. I found myself sitting in classes like anatomy and physiology and human gross anatomy, and rather than pursuing objective truth, which is why I fell in love with science to begin with, I was receiving just an onslaught of political propaganda, of insane talking points, of personal opinions from my professor that all of a sudden replaced truth. I mean, we would spend weeks learning about chromosomes, for example, to memorize things for a test, and then our professor would say, well, XX and XY doesn't really mean anything for your gender identity. That can change every day. So you might as well just forget everything we taught you. Or, hey, I know we just spent months learning about every tiny step of fetal development and the miracle of life in the womb, but abortion doesn't actually end a genetically unique human life. It doesn't kill a human person, even though I just told you it was a person 5 minutes ago. And it's something that you're all going to be forced to participate in as doctors at some point in your career, so you better get used to it, you better get comfortable. And in the midst of feeling so uncertain and so alone and so isolated on my own college campus in 2017, I happened upon a totally random Facebook ad that was, I guess, targeted to young women on college campuses across the country. And it was for an event called the Young Women's Leadership Summit for an organization I had never heard of before called Turning Point USA. And I didn't recognize most of the speakers on the flyer advertising for the event. And I recognized one guy because I'd seen a few videos of his on YouTube named Ben Shapiro. And a handful of people said that I looked like Tommy Lahren a little bit on my college campus, but really had never heard of her. And I certainly had never heard of the man who so selflessly organized this event named Charlie Kirk. But something in my soul told me that I had to get on a plane to Dallas, Texas in June of 2017.
Okay. Well, as I said, I've got to get through a lot today because the Bush family we're going back several generations, so it is a lot. I might even have to break this into two. Um, but I do, encourage you to watch the video and in its entirety. She's a very sweet girl. I have another thing with her about the mommies, and yeah, that's what I came across her profile, and her name is Isabel Brown. And I was like, yes, oh, thank Lord. Because you would think that young women with children would be supportive of everything that I'm doing, because any one of them, if you choose to give up careers, even if you keep part-time jobs or whatever, but if you give up, having it all and really going out and, developing your career and to its maximum, and be a stay-at-home wife, a trailing spouse, like in my case, and or a widow, divorced, any of these issues, or in my case, it was he destroyed his career, and I had to jump in, and figure out a way to move us forward. And I was doing that, and that's what not only got my husband against me, but my family and all my friends. They were jealous. I've come to realize to what extent really this jealousy. I mean, that's where it comes in with women like Megyn Kelly, Maureen Callahan. I mean, Megyn Kelly even said after the movie that was made about her and Roger Ailes, I forget the name of the movie, any woman would sleep with a man because she wanted to be on TV. I was like, screw you, lady. Excuse me. I've been alienated from my children. Can barely keep a roof over my head, even though I run circles around anybody in this town. There's so many different jobs. It's not even funny. That's the problem. First headhunter I met with, she said, I'll never find you a job. Anybody who interviews you is going to be afraid in 6 months you'll have theirs. And that's been my problem all the time. We'll see a little bit later. So, you would think young women would be, because they could be in my shoes in 20 years from now, or 10 years from now, 15 years from now. But no, they're just as bad as the women my age. So, in fact, this gets into this guy over here, Chuck Tobin. He's one of the lawyers in this town who comes into all the restaurants where I've worked, and down at what I call Lobbyville. It's right near the IMF, World Bank, White House. Uh, you guys throw me out of your offices. Well, I'm going to go and find a job in the restaurants where you come, and then I'm going to give you my elevator speech there. You're not going to be able to tell me you didn't know, because I told you I don't know how many times. I think it was funny. I had some guys from the IMF yesterday or day before yesterday. I mean, here I am, I'm a cashier, making churros, and I'm more knowledgeable than anybody in the entire area within 50 miles. Screw them. Well, they've all been jet setting around the world, advancing their careers. I've been busy at work studying and studying and studying everything. I told him, don't mess with me and that you give me back my kids, give me back my life. I mean, I can't bring my kids into this. Um, and that's I just the only thing I live for is be back with my children. But so anyway, Chuck Tobin, I mean, this was precious because we got double exposure. This was in 2013. Chuck Tobin, looking to him. See, there are so many people, rats in this town that are colluding and working together to maintain the death of the liberals. Because this is a liberal town. They've all just gone wacko liberal. Um, so that's why Bobby this here this gets into exactly my point with all of these. I'm not going to play them all, you can go in, but Bobby Kennedy's family, his sister, you listen to his sister. This is the RFK human rights. Oh, this I'm going to play. No. Yeah. Yeah, it's all scam. Oh, come on. Come on, come on. Okay. I don't see a card. This is all party politics. See, see how, and Ethel Kennedy and the RFK Kennedy, they're all LGBT friendly and all, I mean, they are, see how the Kennedy women, I've been going off on like Cornelia Guest about elitism. We'll see her. She's the goddaughter of Wallace Simpson. And that is true. And with the Bush family, we'll see that, but it is the same bitchy women um that are involved. And it's, I love it. People who they're defenseless people, they need to stand up for defenseless people. Yeah, well, I'm standing up for Bobby Kennedy amongst all of the women in his family, a defenseless man. I mean, this is, I keep on saying, you don't send a woman into a man's fight, and you don't send a man into a woman's fight. It's not fair. I think Riley, what's her name? the We'll get into her later. I think she'll back me up on this. Yes, men are physically stronger. It's not a fair fight. But some poor man sent into a fight between cackling hen women, a cat fight between women. I don't think that's a fair fight either. You don't have a fighting chance. Poor thing. See, equality. This is real equity. This is what diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm not against those if they mean what they would mean in English in a logical world. Um, Wonderland of Alice. Oh, I see where I got a confusion. I got Megan Kelly over here twice. So I got to fix that. So anyway, this was George and Candace Owens reflects on the Muslim mistreatment during, that's what I was like, what was this earlier? Yeah, this was really good because the 9/11, as was intended, really started the anti-Muslim sentiments in this country. In fact, Juan Williams, he was ousted from NPR in 2010 on that issue alone. I remember 2010, that was like the first time I saw it. I just got back to the States. And I was like, you're firing him because he admitted to how he felt? Oh, whoa. Well, yeah, Juan Williams, he was a little bit less interested in making his next conquest, and his wife was a little less interested in keeping hold of her husband, well, then maybe there wouldn't be such useless people in this town and part of the problem. I mean, sorry about Juan Williams. Um, so anyway, I digress there. But this gets into, yeah, Riley Gaines here. That was who I was thinking of early. Riley Gaines. She's the one who where is that? It's not here. Because this is a long interview with Joe Rogan, but definitely worth listening to. Um, but she's the one who the swimmer who was like, no, it's not fair, and standing up and saying it's not fair that men in the sports with us. And it's not. So anyway, here, oh, Caroline Kennedy. She, I mean, I love it when she goes and says, oh, I don't like saying anything bad about anybody in my family. I mean, you talk about, they are just as backstabbing as everybody in my family. A lot of families I know.
Well, that's
God, sorry. But see, I want to sell everything.
Dear Senators, throughout the past year, people have asked for my thoughts about my cousin Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his presidential campaign. I did not
And
comment
she
regarding
posts it
his serving in the
on the
government
internet.
position as United States Ambassador to Australia, but because I have never wanted to speak publicly about my family members and their challenges.
Oh, yeah, no, of
We are the
course not.
first generation of 28 cousins who have been through a lot together. We know how hard it has
Yeah,
been, and we are always there for each other.
yeah. As many skeletons in the closet as the bushes.
President Trump to be Secretary overseeing the FDA, the NIH, the CDC, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
Okay, I won't play it all, but it's worth listening. I mean, they stabbed him on the back. They sabotaged everything for Bobby to get in to win his bid, his presidential bid, just out of spite and jealousy. This whole thing of you know, everything that their father, against everything that their father stood for. Nothing could be farther from the truth. These ladies have been against it. I mean, Ethel Kennedy, she came from a very, very Republican family. Ethel Kennedy was only interested in her position in Washington and keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with the Kennedys. She wanted to be the she wanted to set the standards. I guess in her case, keeping up with the Mellons, with Bunny Mellon and what was it, Catherine Graham. But see, she wasn't part of the Capote Swans. And Cher Denise, she does some book reviews about Ethel Kennedy that are worth listening to, and it tells all the things that Ethel was involved in. It's like no wonder this town is what it is. These are the standards that the ruling elite have been leaving behind generation after generation. I mean, I keep on saying, I said, there's not a Kennedy who has been arrested who hasn't said, you can't arrest me, I'm a Kennedy. I know that one back from the 70s and 80s. See, this is the problem of having all of these nouveau riche in this town who haven't been around here that long. I mean, I'm amazed. People say, "Oh, I've been here for 10 years, 15 years." I'm like, "Oh, you're still a newbie." And they think they've arrived. I'm like, "Yeah, you've arrived at hell." So we got Mean Girls and Tripping the Queen. Tripping the Prom Queen is the name of the book. This is here. We'll listen to her a little bit.
What a timely topic with all of this weird stuff going on with gender, just things that are happening here in 2025 that are just weird. It's very timely book.
Friendship was really shifted. I started this 7 years ago when my mother died. I realized what friends were there for me and what friends really weren't. And so I decided to write this book, and then instead I was under contract for several novels that I ran out of my pending, each novels. And so by the time I went back to this 2 years ago, the world had changed so that it was actually a more interesting study because it's all about how divisive politics are and vaccine and values. If they're disparate friends, can't seem to stay friends. And then because of COVID, how did women really treat each other? When did you clean out your closet on those toxic friendships? So it ended up being a book about how empowered we are to name unhealthy friendships.
But it's interesting too in this time period with this war on women and steel kind of thing of restrictions and services and things that are happening. I was shocked during this election cycle that women didn't come out and vote more for what they need because there's been so many things that have been restricted. It's like we've rolled back 100 years in so many levels of things we're doing.
It's really disturbing. But part of my life's work, this is my 14th nonfiction book, is about how women are positioned in a patriarchal culture. So in a patriarchal culture, we are more acrobatic females, we have less voice, we aren't paid an equal amount for equal work. We know how it goes. There's still male supremacy everywhere we go. And so the idea that
Yeah. Okay. So interesting to listen to her interview. This is, she did, I quote her all the time on Tripping the Prom Queen. That's Tripping the Queen, I put in here. Um, but I'll put in a link to that book. But the point that she makes in the book is this is my synopsis of it, my turning it around, because I'm sure that's also why I haven't heard back from her, writing to her, because I am interested in fiction and nonfiction about women, getting writers together. So anyway, the point that she makes is the only thing the feminist movement has accomplished, as I say, that's my added in there, is to increase women's competition and aggression, for the between for husbands, mansions, and material wealth, and the success of their children. And one of the problems, and I saw this particularly with my mother and my sister, my older sister, with her daughter, um, was that her success, if they're not a career woman themselves, then the diplomas of their children, I don't care if their children are miserable, whatever is going on in their life, they got a diploma and they got a good job. And for them, they've been, that's their signature of success. So they're living, that's where you come in with the anti-feminist, and why the anti-feminist still buys into the managerialism, because whereas the having it all feminist, she's the breadwinner and the sign of success, whereas with the anti-feminist, it is her husband and her, you know designated offspring. I mean, some are going to choose the boys and some are going to choose that they want favoritism for their daughters, like with my younger sisters. Excuse me, in my older sister's case, it was for her daughter. She destroyed her son. And whereas in my mother's case, it was keeping, she wanted her daughters to marry well, but her son to have the diplomas, and that was the success. Doesn't matter what else is going on, but that's success. So this whole thing of having it all and measuring success, and it really is really, really very, very self-destructive. So anyway, those were the criteria. It was husbands, children, and mansions or material wealth. Uh, but now the having it all feminists and women want the jobs. So they want the jobs of the men, but the men that they're married to, this is something that one guy pointed out. He was like, wait a second, you educated women, you're not going to want an uneducated man. So this is messing up the statistics of us finding a partner, a mate, to put it delicately. Or us getting laid. Uh, so anyway, here, let me give you an example of how the mean girls are working. This is what's her name? Megan Kelly's analysis. Madonna, and, uh, Madonna, and, uh, Madonna, and, uh, Megan Kelly. And, uh, Megan Kelly, 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 and, uh, Megan
say something about what Candace Owens said in something in a document that you know, is incorrect or contradicts or some issue. No, it's this bullshit. I just pull out a document, look at all of this huge document. Yeah, well, fill it with a whole bunch of pages that take the important. Just because you got a big, that it might be just big pile of shit. You know, I mean, just today, but this is typical. And the thing is like, between women. Why can't any of these women be like, oh yeah, you know, Candace, she's done a really good job. You should see this documentary. I mean, they've really done their research. Because they have, and there's some questions there. And here in the you know, the filing from the homes, it says this and that. I want to get watching the documentary. I want to filing of what was, you know, in the courts, what Megan Kelly had. Okay, let's look at it. If you're going to
So, yeah, that, you know, basically, but it's the example. Like, can anybody be nice? And all of these podcasters, that's another thing. These podcasters, okay, now they've left the mainstream media and they think that they're so wonderful. Well, wait a second, what are you actually doing? You're just getting up and giving a whole bunch of speeches. At least with Charlie Kirk, he went and he was engaging with people and challenging in a public forum uh, some of the crazy BS. But no, all of everybody just wants to get up on a speech and then the podcast, like and subscribe. You can see I have no views on no subscriptions, no views. Nobody likes me. I've been canceled. I've been marginalized. I should just go and disappear, as my younger sister keeps on saying, say, just admit defeat. I'm like, what do you want? You go and jump off Woodley Park. Oh, there's a real nice bridge up here. It goes through Rock Creek Park. I'm sure that would be the end of me. Yeah, well, that's not happening. Alan Dershowitz wife committed suicide that way. Say, ooh, Alan Dershowitz. Yeah, I love it. He wrote a book on cancel culture. See, this is like with Megan Kelly. Excuse me, you might want to start looking in the mirror about this stuff. This is what it's called. Is this was the thing? Like Susan Shapiro, she even said, yeah, she's in New York, Connecticut, and she's in Florida, Palm Beach. Okay, just knowing that she's lived all there, you know where she stands on the issues. She's a managerialist, an elitist. No, no discussion there. So, but one of the things, and I even have a link later on, the whole issue is it's about economics and jobs, and this explains that moving women into the workforce, the only thing it's accomplished is this increase in GNP or GDP by 30% is it's moving the jobs that women used to do in the home for free into paid jobs that can be taxed, income tax. So this is putting more money into the coffers of the government to waste, um, and not making society any more productive or efficient, in fact, to the contrary. And it also is giving more power to the state and taking away less power from the individual. I mean, you try and have an intelligent discussion with any of the feminists on this, or even the men with this, and I mean, they'll want to lock you up in a psychiatric ward. Um, so yeah, see, the thing is, I've got the Capote swans. Let's See, this is the paradigm that the right and left want to maintain. Yeah, see, this is the role model that women have been following because the 60s and 70s civil rights movement um, challenged that and dismantled those, and we see that in England with Queen Elizabeth II and all of the aristocracy. That's where you got up here, my alma mater, Foxcroft, their aristocracy. It kind of jumps here because then it goes to the 11th, the new headmistress. But then my alma mater in England is Cobham Hall. So you're having the same problem with both the schools of, because they're, it's Princess Antonia, Duchess of Duchess Percy is in there. So you have the aristocracy, you have the international students, so you have the old guard aristocracy who laissez faire governance. I keep on saying, ladies, Marie Antoinette lost her head over that one, so you better stop it. But they don't want to listen. So, but in both of these schools, these girls' schools, you see how the old guard um, ruling elite dropped the ball and we're too busy in there, shopping and in their castles and jet setting around the world and having extramarital affairs, and pretending to be these sophisticated people, who were very, very intellectual. They're all pseudo intellectual. I mean, I think I read it was Paul Mellon and Bunny Mellon, and they were fascinated with Eleanor Aquitaine. I was like, you guys are on opposite spectrums here. Want to talk about autism spectrums? Let's talk about these spectrums of this wacko aristocracy. Um, that gets into Jung, and Candace Owens gets into Jung and Freud. Well, she does more Freud, but I don't know if she's gotten to Jung yet, but he's in there as well. That she should take a look at. That gets into all of the wacko psychobabble stuff. It's all related. It's all related. So this is the role model of our grandmothers, of our mothers, of my generation, of my children's generation now. And it's very, very self-destructive. And Jamie Lee Curtis is part of that whole, her father, Tony Curtis. I remember Tony Curtis. I loved Tony Curtis when I was younger. So, but CZ Guest's daughter, Cornelia, was Deb of the Decade. Here's Cornelia nowadays. Yeah. Yeah. See, this is what they're even getting political in the advertisements. Oh, good. Oh, come on. Oh, okay. Celebutante. So yeah, anyway, Cordelia, it was funny because I think it was a Billy Bush and Rob Lowe interview. I forget. But I saw somebody and they said, "Oh yeah, Dallas has become what is it that like the refugees of New York." And they can't make it in Hollywood, so they go to Dallas. That's Cornelia. That's why she went to Dallas. I was like, now I understand because I couldn't figure it out. In some interview I read that Cornelia had moved from New York to Dallas to be closer to LA. Like, I know you dropped out your high school dropout, Cornelia, but Dallas is not on the way to LA from New York. Um, yeah, so anyway, yeah, I even Googled it once and I was like, okay, I think you're 10 minutes closer. Yeah, I mean, she'd be a nobody in LA, but she's somebody in Dallas. So that's why she went there. But this is where I came across. But see, these are all and here I am with my Cornelia's still schmoozing and cruising and trying to maintain her status as celebutante, which that ship sailed long ago, little girl. You should have come on board with me. I contacted her and Ingrid Betancourt in 2010 about global expats. The global expats is to promote uh, sustainable globalization. See, the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals that the UN have, I'm on board, but not they've gone just as woke and just as progressive and the same trajectory as the Americans, as all the Europeans. It's a global fight. Thinking that this is just something in America, in the United States, that it is happening all over the world, in every country, and it is also going on within the international community with the IMF, World Bank, and UN at the lead. So if that is going to be dismantled, it has to be attacked on all sides and not just, state by state in the United States, or it needs to be attacked local, I mean, at all echelons, all the way up to the top. But this is where I had come across Isabel Brown, anti-baby agenda, and they want you to hate babies and erase women. And it's true. But see, this has been something that has been promoted, and I won't play it because I really had wanted to try and get to the Bushes this evening. Um, but it gets into the Bushes as well. The Bushes, just like Trump's father, well, it was actually Trump's grandfather, made the money with the gold rush, Western expansion, and then the gold rush. And the Bush family, same thing. They had come, they were originally from the original colonies in the 1600s. I forget if it was Puritan or Quaker families. Um, but then the one who made the money would be the grandfather of George, original George Bush, I believe. We'll see that had made it in the gold rush. And so that, and then back in New York and um, in the whole Connecticut, because see, this whole Texas stuff, that was smoke screens to get the George Bush 41 into office. We'll see that. So anyway, let's see. Oh, this was my response to, again, I want to try and get through this quickly, but this was again the Mean Girls, uh, Megyn Kelly, when Chris Cuomo had been attacked. This is years ago. Chris Cuomo had, and that was after his brother had been brought down, had been attacked by the Me Too movement on the sexual harassment. And again, I thought, well, here, I'll play it. It's been a while since I've seen this one as well.
Has the credentials, it needs to be done. They just submitting in case of hearing. But I haven't got
Through to Megyn Kelly.
through address.
Because I've been trying to find a lawyer to submit our grievances to the international courts, and I keep on knocking on doors. We do have with Barbara Stone at the International Criminal Court, but this, as I say, this was years ago. Here, let's. Oh yeah, hold on. Let's.
That this is essential. So what I sent was a little bit more detailed, but so what is these types of cases like the co-op, risk there's so many problems. And it's a high profile case, political motivations or financial motivations. Other than that, the rest of it is so, why are these types of cases given such coverage by the press? Yet for the past 6 years, lawyers and the press have been covering up minority actions like that to the women problems of vaccinating them internal mismanagement and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, most of the ways to the evidence and proof of crime. Now, Megyn Kelly is attacking the activists because their links, there's no data there.
Okay. I won't finish through that because I do go on. But I think also what I think Megyn Kelly's channel, they'll delete you if you have any links in the comments. So it may not have just been something against, that they didn't like what I had posted. Because I'm like, wait a second, I'm saying this all the time. If you guys are such women's rights champions, then why aren't you helping me? All I want to do is clean up the courts. The pedophiles are out of control. They're enabling pedophiles. They're covering up for sexual abuse. They're covering up for violence against women. Women have no rights. They completely degraded women's and children's rights and litigants' rights, men's rights as well, litigants' rights in the courts. This has to stop. That's been my focus, my rhetoric, and my agenda from the beginning. Why should anybody have a problem with that? So, and here with Cornelia, we see her godmother was Wallace Simpson. Now, Cher Denise does a wonderful book on Wallace Simpson. So, this, talks about Wallace Simpson. Duh, like you guys, and you're saying, I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a Nazi. No, your godmother was. Your mother was. Your grandmother was. They all, I mean, Joe Kennedy Sr. was in agreement, sort of, with the Jewish solution of Hitler. Um, so the you know history has the public has been gaslit about exactly what happened in going up to World War II, after, and even during. It was all, nobody cared about the Jews. Only cared when Hitler invaded Poland. I mean, this whole thing of being so altruistic and so caring, and it's all bullshit. So here, at about it was about 1:44 in her presentation here, remembering Charlie Cook, Tucker Carlson, she says, "Oh, great, the State Department. Yeah, the State Department. Finally, you're getting tough on getting rid of all of the immigrants." Megyn Kelly, my conversation with the Americans abroad. This was a congressional hero. I won't play the whole thing, but you could see this was a Zoom call. Oh, I freeze up and she just pissed off. But my point with this is she's like so rude and so like bored, and like I'm bothering her. Huh. Okay, so you can go into that and listen. I explain it's on my War on Domestic Terrorism website as well, under the American Abroad Act section, because they now Congress has yet another. Oh, I've been to the American Abroad Caucus. They've ignored me. I mean, there's all sorts of American abroad legislation. They keep on ignoring me. Oh, Federation of American Women's Clubs, come on down. Uh, you know, all sorts of people, women, um, groups that let's see, tax issues, the double taxation issue for Americans is a big thing, but they don't realize we got 9 million Americans living abroad. Buddy, you better not find yourself in court, civil or, and you talk about, you know, intellectual property theft. Well, one of the cases that I have tried to assist with, but we've got it, at least we've got the documents, you know, reclaiming the rights of, it's a case in Japan, reclaiming the rights of a child in Japan. Caroline Kennedy was the ambassador. She got a letter on that. So she's involved in that one. Instead of criticizing and trying to destroy her cousin Bobby, if she paid a little bit more attention to what she was doing as ambassador to Japan and Australia, well, then she wouldn't be sitting on having to explain herself to the International Criminal Court. Because I keep on telling everybody, if you are stopped, doesn't matter what country, if you are stopped, if you're in a foreign country and you are stopped, or you become involved in any kind of judicial or extrajudicial procedure, you immediately go to your consulate and you tell them, okay, I'm involved in this, I'm involved in that. They have an obligation to assure that your rights are being respected. Now, if the courts are respecting your rights, then of course there's not much they can do. However, if anybody's violating your rights, then that is not only can they under the Vienna Convention of Consular Relations, but they have an obligation to do so under the obligation to protect. So, you know, that has, well, I mean, boom, 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 up against the wall on that issue with the State Department. So I want Megyn Kelly to explain why she's not supporting me on that one, but she wants the State Department, rah, 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 take them, go and grab them and ice and throw them out. Just yesterday, I met a young gentleman with one of these canvassers looking for money in the streets of Washington. They flagged me down. I'm like, oh, okay, you really want to talk to me? If you're gonna give me your spiel, you're gonna have to listen to my spiel, okay? Oh, it's a kind of a Charlie Kirk moment there I get with these guys. Okay, so this is a young black man, and this is the ACLU. It's like you're familiar. Oh yeah, I'm familiar with it. Yeah, I'm familiar with it. And I'm also the Southern Poverty Law Center, familiar with that. Then NAACP, that's another one. Yes, very familiar. So yeah, okay. So apparently he had been through the court system. He had been arrested and thrown in and sent to prison for bank robbery, but he didn't do it. So I don't know. He says he was unfairly. I said, well, if you were unfairly, incarcerated, you contact me, you get your name, and we're going to look into this because you should not, because he said, no, there was footage of me at another place. I couldn't have been there. I said, if you were unfairly incarcerated, you contact me, and this is precisely what has got to stop. And those who have been treated unfairly, we have to stop this, and we need all of this to be looked into, and of course your record expunged. Now if you really did it, I doubt he'll contact me. But his whole spiel was, so that the ICE agents can no longer go into people's homes and stuff. I'm like, wait a second, I don't think we're going to agree on that one. Now, I want people's rights to be respected in that process, of course. And you just can't, come in, boom, 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 and start, hauling people off without any kind of due process. But if there is cause, and and there is reason that this person should be, they're an immigrant, or they've committed whatever the case may be. Now we're talking about immigration issues, but yeah, we're not on the same page. Oh no, 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 we're gonna tie the hands of the police. We'll defund the police then. I mean, yeah. If you're going to tie their hands but still pay them, well, then at least just get rid of them, and then we're not paying them. We got that money. I mean, same can of worms, just one way it costs you money, and the other way you got money for other stuff. But the thing is, you got total lawlessness, so your money is going to be spent. As a prepper, you might go and want to try and live with Tucker Carlson. That's another thing with Tucker Carlson from St. George's. Oh, your solution is to run away with tail between your legs and go out in some, forest and live like a prepper. I'm like, you guys, you really guys thought this through? Because I don't know if you're going to have enough air. Now, how is your sanitation system? Believe me, all of these preppers, I got a whole list. I'm like, you know what? You might want to stop hiding out. You might want to start, fighting for your country instead of being a coward. Um, so Anyway, this, I mean, I'm so glad I have this on Zoom video, because this young woman, and she is now gotten, I forget, she's in um uh some agency in the government of the Middle East or something. I was like, these kids need to be fired, not be given a promotion. I mean, you talk about, I love it. I'm like, look at this girl. Look at this girl. This is exactly what we have been encountering for, it's almost been 15 years up on Capitol Hill. These snot-nosed brats. Now, I do not agree with the January 6th. Anybody who is involved in any kind of violence, that's a whole other can of worms, this whole thing. No, they're like due process there, that they invited them in. There are so many questions that nobody, even with Trump back in power, I've investigated it. So I know, I've seen videos on this, the different testimonies, the different cases. That was, of course, Trump should be pardoning all of these people. That was ridiculous what was done. So, anyway, I digress there. So let's move on. But we need the due process. And, you know, this just infuriated me with Megyn Kelly and her interview with Tucker Carlson. I've sent emails to Tucker Carlson. Oh, my favorite now with Candace Owens is I sent her an email, um, because she was, it's about the Brigitte Macron case, and she was talking about somebody, a French name, Alain, and she was pronouncing I mean, American, whatever. So I said, well, here's the pronunciation. I know how it's spelled. You're pronouncing it how it's spelled, but in English, this, it sounds like you're talking about a woman. We got enough confusion on that issue as it is. I mean, and I only sent it to her. I didn't post it anywhere. So the link, the people coming in there, that has like over 100 views. I'm lucky if I get 4 views on any of my videos. I'm like, really? Really? That's all of the content that I have, and the only thing that your little groupies care about is my heads up on how you're pronouncing a name. See, this is the, I've seen it with Russell Brand, all of them, they all have their groupies around them. They're no different than the congressional members. They're all celebrities, and they all have their groupie staff around them, and they become elitist by osmosis. Okay, so gosh, I'm almost 2 hours into this, and I haven't even gotten to the Woodberry Forest. And they're big on the honor system. Yeah, well, that has all, I mean, it's kind of like DEI that's been taken into La La Land. Um, but this school, it is a historical building, and it was a plantation, so very, very southern. And this is something that really, with the universities and the young people, are issues that need to be really, really addressed about why we fought the Civil War. It was not about slavery. That was a residual issue, and that was used to justify the bloodshed and many, many things. Just like every war, they use something like that to justify it. The American Revolution, I mean, that was used to the separation from Britain, our oppressors. Just repeated the same thing, but there was still, I mean, we did have that aristocracy. Yes, it wasn't like in England, because we were the bastards. Of course, it was more egalitarian than the English. We didn't have the lords and ladies. So just by the rhetoric of the names and the titles and of what was going on, it was more egalitarian and democratic system. However, we were still dealing with the same issues. This Nancy Eisenberg, historian of Louisiana State University, goes into this in her book, White Trash, 400 Years The Untold Story in America. So I highly advise people to read that book, and she does cover a lot of the very important issues in there and points out that the race problems in this, or the race wars in the country are not about race, but they're about class. And if you look at that time, and if you look at it from that perspective, you see, yeah, really what it is allocation of resources and becoming rich and famous. Now, you know, there is somebody later on I get into gets into the celebrity chefs, and he's talking about, what is success. He says the older I get, the less I define success in monetary value, which he makes a good point. So this is Woodberry Forest. It is in Virginia. It's one of these, elitist prep schools that has a very, very, very impressive alumni list. But even if you go through all of these, you can see the trajectory of American society, and you see many, many more famous sports people instead of intellects. Well, why is that? With money. So you can see how there has been shifts in allocation of resources, of what we consider important, just by going through all of the different prep schools and their notable alumni who are posted. And these are important people, because this is not the entire alumni list. You got lots and lots of alumni, some of them who don't want their names out there for a variety of reasons, and some who don't make it on the important list because they don't have enough material wealth, or they haven't become a celebriton. I love that with Cornelia. So with Cornelia, with Woodberry, this gets into a lot of the mothers. Now, apart from being my brother's alma mater, this is the alma mater of Anne Beatrix Keller from the IMF Family Association. Her son, he went there. I remember when, I was like, Anne Beatrix, you have no idea who you're dealing with, when she said this to me. Because she said, oh, yes, my son, he's going to Woodberry Forest. And I said, oh, that's where my brother went. And she just looked at me like this, like literally down her nose at me, and was like, how could anybody like you have a brother who went to Woodberry Forest? I mean, by this time, I'd already gotten her number. I remember when Francis McCrae, so this is at the IMF Family Association, real quick. This was when I got back to the United States. I was like, I need a job. The headhunter, she said, I'll never find you a job because anybody interviewing you is afraid that in 6 months you'll have their job. So when I interviewed for the position with the IMF Family Association, I was like, thank you, Lord. At least I'm not in competition, because I can't have any of the jobs of anybody on the board, because you have to be a spouse of somebody in the IMF. So, and I'm a hourly person, minimum wage. I mean, technically they're paying more because I'm going through an employment agency, but this also gets into with the employment agencies, they're getting half of my salary. Therefore, if I have an issue with the employer, they should be handling all of the legal stuff, and they should have the lawyers. And if these employment agencies were held to account and be obligated to do that, because this whole outsourcing stuff, which has enabled and given lots and lots of jobs and created these companies, these employment agencies, um, they have the responsibility to make sure that their employees' rights are not being violated. And they're making tons of money just getting everybody there. So, and this was precisely, this whole outsourcing is so that organizations, companies can get away with labor rights violations. So, there's all sorts of ways to fix what's out there. You just need to find some people with good faith, and there are none. Lawyers, they go to the prep schools, they go to the Ivy League schools. I mean, it's a whole scam. You got the big law. So they're the corporate guys. Oh, I mean, if you have money, they will find ways to hide it and all do anything you want. I mean, they'll figure it out. So I was listening to this guy the other night, downtown, how charitable he is, because he works on the pro bono side of the big law. And he helps with all of these poor people who are fleeing from wars that we are producing and helping with immigration into the United States. See how that works? Then the immigration lawyers, the only thing they care about is processing all of the paperwork for all of these people. So, but then the labor law lawyers, they only care about unpaid wages to the immigrants. So, see, this is where it's gotten, where the if you will, the collusion, but it doesn't matter if they're sitting together planning this or if it just happens because that's the way it worked out. Like nobody's, but nobody's driving the car or at the what do you call that on the ship, at the wheel. So it's just going anywhere it wants, and which is more the situation than evil intent of anybody. I mean, I still find there's a lot of coincidences. It's Charlie Kirk's assassination stinks, and it stinks of something more than just some kid who lost it. Now, the more and more I listen to stuff that is coming out, the more and more I'm uh, it comes to mind, was this guy's head messed with? I mean, like CIA type of thing. It was Charlie Sheen and Joe Rogan. They were talking about that the other day, and in the interview when Charlie Kirk was shot, that was the same. They're also part of that was when they find that out, but they were talking about the book Chaos. So that sounds more and more something was going on there. I don't. It just stinks. So anyway, this the journalists should be all in. And well, the authorities are involved. Yeah, so that's kind of like the fox guarding the hen house. Yes. So anyway, I did want to get into at least the beginning of this with the Woodberry forest. We are going to do the Bush family. Now, see, I got a whole slew of people, and that's just the first page. Then we got the second page here of all sorts of people. Of course, I won't do as much for each person on here because the Bushes, I started going into that and I was like, oh gosh, that's going to be one presentation in and of itself. Then you had Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated, that added, because you'll see and hear the Bush family. So, um, really, if we want to see the beginning of, I mean, we can go back to the Reagan, but if you want to look at the violence and the wars and this um assassinations and taking people out, and somebody told me that worked with me, they said there's an article you should read. It doesn't pay to be friends of the Kennedy, of the, excuse me, of the Clintons, and it has a whole list of people who have been killed. Let's see, then I was listening the other day, the people, all of the people who were around the JFK assassination and saw things, um they ended up dead. There's just too many people who are ending up dead. And we keep on pointing our fingers at Russia, at Stalin. Yeah, we got to stop living in denial, people. So, yeah, like, God, this Barbara Bush, she's the matriarch.
Long ago, I decided in life that I had to have priorities. I put my children and my husband at the top of my list. That's a choice that I have never regretted. If I had any regrets, it doesn't. I wish I'd taken more time to listen a little longer, a little deeper.
Yeah, this is the typical matriarch and justifies everything. She's putting her family and her husband first, and it justifies many anything, anything. And that's, see, that's where you get the ruthlessness, because listen to him. He's not as ruthless as she
We
is.
spend even more time with our children. I realize that more men in America would benefit every single thing I worry about. Crime, unemployment, pollution, teenage pregnancy, school dropouts, women who are trapped into welfare, and therefore poverty, etc. So I made my major of more than on America with several minors, all related to better education. Who knows? Somewhere out in this audience may even be someone who will one day follow in my footsteps and preside over the White House as the president's spouse. And I wish him well.
See, closet feminist, closet feminist. Um, yeah, okay, listen to him.
Well, that's Mark. He works at
Yeah.
targeting Saddam's vast military
Okay. But I have to admit, I mean, that after that it was finished. But I have to admit, I was like, well, no, if I believed in my government still that you know we couldn't allow uh, nuclear bombs in the Middle East. I did a thesis on nuclear nonproliferation when I was in college, and I read all of the reports with the congressional records, and I always say the most important thing I learned out of that experience was they don't look at jack shit. Now I was working up on Capitol Hill, so I already knew this, but I thought with nuclear weapons, and this was about nuclear reactors and how nobody could get nuclear reactors, but I was like, this is it. This is it. I got a shitty grade, but I was like, yeah, you should be giving a shitty grade to Congress. So this I really enjoyed. Justin Frank, he did a book on Bush on the couch, but he also did one on Obama on the couch. I think he's done one on Trump on the couch, but it is very good. He makes some very good points about early childhood development. Let's see, George Bush's son, George Walker Bush, his younger sister was killed. She died very young, and it was like very hush hush, and it was very traumatic for him, and I think for kind of all of the family. The Kennedys had the similar situation with Rose, who was just taken off, and then she was lobotomized. So there was always kind of this fear of like disappearing and nobody caring, and apparently he really loved his younger sister, and he was a young child, and he didn't understand. Nobody explained why she was no longer there. I mean, that's really traumatic for a young child. So these uncaring families from generation to generation will see there's not only a detrimental effect on the country in their lack of leadership, and they've just become puppets. I mean, I'm looking at George Papa Bush there, and I'm thinking, yeah, clones didn't exist in those days, but he definitely, looks like he's reading from a script. Um, so nowadays, you can't be sure. I loved it when Trump said that Biden was a clone. Oh God, I have to admit, Trump is the funniest president we've had in the White House. And there's one thing that I do agree with Megyn Kelly on, and I do laugh as hard as her is, and she plays it. She admits, she says, I play this one as often as I can, of when Trump is being questioned. Did you say that you grabbed them by the P word anytime you can and they just let you? And he said, yeah, it's true. It is. And the feminists have made the situation worse. And Megyn Kelly, you shouldn't talk. You keep your mouth shut when it comes to that thing. So anyway, here we get into the Bush family. Maybe I guess I'll go through because I get 3 hours on this one. Okay, so sorry about that. So anyway, here we start with President Papa Bush. They call him 41, and his wife Barbara. Now she's very old school. I forget, I think we'll see later where she went to prep school. But she, she was, because we'll see other, these are real, what they call white trash, or in other cases, I mean, you've got Jeb Bush, who's married to a Mexican. I mean, I'm sorry, when I see her kid, see, this is where, yeah, I'm judging her by her children and what she's produced in her children. That's where my judgment comes. And that's where we see the success of these women. I mean, in the men, it's the businesses they build or the countries that they mess up or govern successfully. We haven't seen that in a long time. And with the women, it's your children, your grandchildren, your your community, your immediate community, which could be your family, your neighborhood. I mean, okay, if you're the first lady, well, act like it and take charge. And that's, we've had puppet presidents as much as puppet first ladies. Um, so this goes back to Plan Colombia. We got the Gulf War, Plan Colombia, because this is all related. You got the war in the Gulf, but we got to keep up our wars in South America too. I mean, we got to be fair, have equity, diversity, and inclusion in everything that we do. So we've got Plan Colombia and Ambassador Ann Patterson. She was in, this is a really good, this little click here, but you can't really, I mean, I have the video. I don't have enough room, but that goes into an interview with Ann Patterson. Now, when I was living in Bogota, I had just gotten to Bogota. I've been there, I think, a year and a half, 2 years, and the American Embassy did a presentation for the American Women's Clubs of Bogota about Plan Colombia. Of course, I'm going to go. My sister, who'd lived there for already 20 years, she wasn't going to go. Well, yeah. Also, maybe that had something to do with the question that I asked. So anyway, I go, and first off, I'm like, who's that man sitting over there in the corner? This is the first time I've ever seen a man at any of your meetings. And they said, oh, that's David Patterson. He's CIA. Well, now, officially, he's apparently just a foreign service guy, but they told me it was CIA. I don't know. I really can't find much about David Patterson on the internet, so I don't know. But he's older, so they have two children, two sons that didn't come with them when they were in Bogota, although I wouldn't have met with them. I mean, even my kids wouldn't, they would have been older and my kids were still young. But and they were in their teens, mine are still toddlers. So anyway, to show you how small the world is. So my brother comes to town with his girlfriend. She's a Philippine. Now, my sisters had been telling me for years and years and years, before I came back to the States, what an idiot the girl was. And saying, how could he be with somebody so stupid? And I mean, they went on and on and on. Now, I thought it was just part of it was being mean girls and the typical stuff. But then when I met her, I was like, no, you weren't exaggerating. So he comes to town. We go to dinner with a friend of hers, a Philippine girl, and her husband and his younger brother. And we're sitting there talking and stuff. And they said, yeah, our mom went to Bogota. Yeah. Oh, and she was the ambassador. What, what's your mom's name? Ann Patterson. Oh, I'm going. So I was like, okay. So, because at the end of the presentation, on Plan Colombia, I stand up and I said, okay, this is all very well and good to get rid of the drug production here, although I'm not buying it for a moment that all you're destroying is the cocoa plants and the people and the animals and all of the other vegetation are not touched. Not buying that one. I'm sure people, Agent Orange woke everybody up on that one. Um, so yeah, I mean, but I didn't add that in there. I said, okay, all well and good to get rid of your drug production, but as long as drug consumption is increasing in the United States and Europe, um, this problem is just going to move elsewhere to another country. The idiot State Department official said, what do you care, lady, as long as we get rid of it here? Now, I did bite my tongue because I wanted to say, you know what, I've heard a lot of jackass things from civil servants in my life, but that's at the top of the list in front of everybody. Of course, I was the only one to say anything because all of the women, their children went the American women, the American school in Bogota, which had the biggest drug problems of anybody, all of the upper crust schools. Mine were at the French school. And I never challenged my husband on that because I did not want my kids in the American schools. There's a number of reasons, but entitlement and drugs were at the top of the list. Um, so anyway, I mean, I've been calling out that shit for forever. But see, I was a stay-at-home mom and a trailing spouse, and I'm sure, and my ex was a bigwig banker. He was the director of the Treasury Department of Banco Ganadero there. So, you know, and then he's French, Spanish. We were rubbing shoulders with all of the ruling elite of Bogota, but also the expat communities until he crashed and burned. And then that's when he um, kind of lost it. So anyway, you know, the ruling elite of Bogota, I mean, nobody ever came to me about the rumors, but yeah, I mean, I've been canceled by them as well. They should be as concerned about banking systems and commerce and all of the issues. But see, this is where you see the ruling elite of these, you know, whether it be South America or the Middle East, they're just as complicit. You know, the imperialistic Americans, the imperialistic British, French, whatever, they're the bad guys. We're the good guys. You're all complicit. You're all complicit. This is where Ingrid Betancourt, I was supportive of Ingrid's 2002 presidential campaign because not that I thought that she could win. I'm sure, I guess she and her sister thought that I was like, oh, I'm going to get in with I'm going to get in and get a photo taken or something of a presidential candidate. So, excuse me, Colombians of some banana republic. Yeah, who doesn't have a snowball chance in hell. I mean, who, like, what is going through your mind, you arrogant little so and so? Like, I supported you because I thought, excuse me, her her whole Jeanne d'Arc and her whole publicity campaign to get into. Sorry, I'm getting to the end of my water. Her whole publicity campaign was brilliant. Jeanne d'Arc of Colombia, and she was on the cover of magazines in Spain and France, and you know, got all sorts of publicity. She would have been nothing. She wouldn't have gotten any kind of publicity, and she wrote on that um, to launch her presidential campaign in Colombia. I mean, I was like, yeah, okay. The odds are stacked against you and came up with a good idea. Give you a pat on the back for that one, and I'll support you. You're against, you want peace and anti-corruption. Why aren't you supporting me? No, because she's been too busy playing the, I mean, you can Google her, let's see, with her little discussions with Baltasar Garzon over the years. Well, Baltasar Garzon, he's Spain. I've contacted him several times. Would you please submit to the International Criminal Courts? He is the big wig on universal jurisdiction. He's also from a pueblo. I mean, all of these people just have overinflated egos. They think they know it all. It's just this elitist group of nouveau riche who have come in, who are even worse than the old guard, which were bad enough by themselves. And the Bushes are part of the nouveau riche. Um, because as I say, they made their I mean, they came in, I would say, with the Trumps into power in I mean, it started in the North because they're Connecticut or Massachusetts, I forget. But then I think it's here they start. See, he went to Andover. Where was that else? That's the Kincaid School, Harvard, Huckabee. I think they've moved down to, yeah, down to, because this is where George gets into the oil business. And that's when they become these Texans, which who go to Harvard and part of the Skull and Bones. See, George Bush, Papa and son, were part of the Skull and Bones. And that gets into the Masonry, that does get into all of the conspiracies and the Illuminati and all of that old guard that dates back to the time of Machiavelli and before. So I'm gonna go quickly through his family and try and keep this below 3 hours. So we've got George here. Jeb is another of the son. He met, I think he was 17 and she was 16. He was teaching English as a foreign language in Mexico, and he meets her. Well, she got her prize, and she grabbed her prize. Now, I know this game. I've seen it when I lived in Colombia. Oh, Gladys Villa, I hope you're listening because this is your story. Um, so, you know, gets her husband, her meal ticket husband. Well, with the kids, Noelle Bush, I mean, that poor girl, I'm sure her mother was gonna make a lady, I'm sure her mother was very, very insecure about being a poor Mexican within the Bush family and was just ruthless with her daughter. And Jeb Bush talks about his daughter's drug problems and is sorry about his daughter's drug problems. Well, it's not only his daughter, but let's see. George Bush, he's gone into politics. I forget what he is right now, but I think, is it Florida or Texas? And then he's married this woman. She's a having it all wife. I'm pretty sure. There are links into all of these different people. Now, Jeb Bush Jr., he's married. This is extremely interesting because the only thing you could find about, yeah, I don't know where they came up with this thing. The, let's see where, scroll down. Here she is. I'm betting it's the Sandra Al-Gudadi that you found. So another Bush family connection to the Middle East. She was, Sandra's a Canadian Catholic parents from the Middle East. Very well educated with a knowledge of 3 major languages. Can't find this foundation. She was head of strategic partnerships. She was appointed head of strategic partnerships to identify, develop, and facilitate partnership opportunities between existing and potential partners and benefactors who share the Strat Real Foundation's commitment to children and young people. Having worked and lived in the Middle East, Sandra brings a first-hand understanding of the Middle Eastern culture and Arabic language, which have been essential for the development of a foundation program. Joined the foundation in 2007 after 2 years at the office of Prince Al Hassan bin Talal, former Crown Prince of Jordan, where she worked as a researcher. She has previously worked at the United Nations Relief and Work Agency. She holds a master's degree in sociology from McGill University in Montreal. Her thesis argued that the assimilation experience of recent immigrants are based on their status in the country of origin. I agree with her there. I mean, I think we're on the same page on that. I think she's making an affirmative statement rather than a non-affirmative one. But combined, her academic and work experience makes her a strong asset to this Strat Real Foundation's team. So that's really all I could find out about her. But see, this is Elon Musk. This was particularly, he found this with USAID and exposed. That was Pandora box of how the charity industry, as it is an industry, has been used for political dispersing the political agenda of the left. And they have just been, I mean, it is done openly. And if anybody questions them, oh, you talk about bullying. You will get bullied and silenced. And see, this is the whole thing the left is using. That's why they go on the defensive so much anytime they are scrutinized, because there are trillions of dollars that are being funneled into these nonprofits, think tanks, all sorts of different charities, which are then using the money for all sorts of nefarious purposes. And it is the deep state. This is what I keep on, pointing out. It's not just George Bush over at the CIA and Edgar Hoover and punctual people like that. It's a whole structure that goes down to the minimum wage people who work in Washington, or the guy, the bank robber who didn't rob the bank, working for the ACLU, so that we won't have so that the police can't come and arrest anybody. And we will have complete and total anarchy and lawlessness in Washington. It'll be worse than the Wild West in its worst of the days. So yeah, then we have Jenna and friends. Jenna over here. So that's the Jeb Bush family. Then you have George Bush. As I said, see oh, sorry, that was his younger sister. His younger sister was the one that died, and that had really affected him. I think we'll see that in the next one. I think she's still in there. So Laura Bush, there was here, she's this denial. No, I'm just going to sit here reading a book, looking out the window. Everything's fine and dandy. Oh, so over here, I think you can see it there. Yeah, see. Did I not include that in there? I wanted to conclude it. I guess I did. But yeah, look at that. It really was very sad. My heart really when I read that about George Bush and his daughter, that was again um Bush on the couch. It's like, gosh, really did affect him very, very much, particularly having such an uncaring mother. So they have two twin daughters, and they're, I mean, Jenna has become part of the mainstream media propagandists and just another Meghan McCain. I don't know how else to put it. Another Meghan McCain. Now that gets into with the Arizona. I mean, I, I was in contact with Mike Helen even when I got here. I was like, my God, can you guys help me get a job? I mean, freaking A. I barely make it out alive of Spain and I get to Washington. I'm not asking. I am a very, very competent and a very good hard worker, and I am very knowledgeable about a lot of things. I'm not asking for any favoritism. I am asking for a decent job and not constantly being fired because I represent white privilege and then told by all the ruling elite that it's normal that I'm discriminated against and targeted in hate crimes because I've been offered up as a sacrificial lamb to atone for the sins of all the imperialists and all of the white people. I'm like, offer yourself up as a sacrificial lamb. Screw you. I mean, see, this is, oh gosh, the whites, they have no rights. They have no rights. The country is being overrun. Yeah, because it's just asleep at the wheel. Of course, you fall asleep at the wheel, somebody's going to come in and take over. Duh. I don't need to be an Einstein to figure that one out. Yet we have Meghan McCain espousing her words of wisdom all over the place. And Jenna, what's her name now? Jenna Bush Hager, espousing her words of wisdom with her husband. What is it? Henry. What could possibly go wrong when you start sticking a bunch of bimbos, dumb bimbos? This reminds me of the movie Legally Blonde. What could possibly go wrong? So anyway, yeah. Then, like I think I said this before, I was the only one who defended Sean Penn. I mean, they really attacked Sean Penn for going to interview a drug lord who is supplying all the drugs that all of their kids are on, mind you. Why would they possibly be upset? Um, Here's I forget why I have this video in here. I put this in a while ago. This is Barbara Bush's husband, Craig Coyne.
Hey guys, well, thanks so much for taking the time. Great, great documentary. Thank you for sharing with me. I've never played pickleball before, so what am I missing? You're missing a camaraderie, exercise. Yeah, you're missing fun. Music, fun. You know, like fun that you can have with, unlike with most sports, like fun that you can have with pretty much anyone. You can have with you can have a child and some time and still have a competitive game. So it's pretty unique in that respect.
Okay, I remember now the pickleball. So he got this. This is because he did a documentary on pickleball. Now my brother was talking to me about this the other day. I said, "What's pickleball?" And he said, "Yeah, it's what you used to play in Madrid. You showed me." I said, "Oh, paddle." They had it. Love it. I have been saying for you ever since I got back. I was like, oh my God, I want to start a trend of paddleball. And because their courts, there, because this is also, I think the tennis people are getting pissed off because it takes, you could probably fit like two, maybe two and a half paddle ball courts into what you have for one tennis court. And it is a lot. You don't have to have the technique. Like particularly like with my sons, I wanted us to play because they were bored stiff with me. I mean, I can't play tennis with them because they're, you know, they'd be sitting there going, okay, when are we going to start? But I can, we can have fun and defend myself with the paddleball. You don't need as much technique. And it's kind of, when I explain to people, it's kind of cross between squash and tennis. But I guess now people are starting to know it in the United States. But it is a lot of fun. I agree. However, excuse me, you can get money that put a documentary on what is it, pickleball. Uh, and I can't even get a minimum wage job. See, this allocation of resources is what I keep on saying. Keep on going back to Adam Smith model of economy or Mandevillean model. The Mandevillean model basically, nutshell, says, yeah, prostitutes, drug pushers, hitmen, um, let's see, I got drug addicts already in there. They produce economies that function, and it keeps the money circling. Yeah, it's not sustainable though, because bakers, tailors, dressmakers, shoemakers, they produce an economy as well, and it's sustainable. Let's go for the sustainable one. And let's stop producing so many drug addicts. Um, yeah, and I mean, the thing is I hope, what I'm hoping is some of these young women will realize that, like Noelle, what she's gone through, yeah, this is not good. We got to break the cycle. We got to break the cycle somewhere, somehow, and it's got to be our generation. The buck stops here. The past is past. There's only so much we can do about, we got to fix some of the things that have been created. But we got to move on. And like Nancy Reagan's daughter, Patty Davis, she did a very good book. This came out in the 90s. And highly criticized. Oh gosh, it was, her parents weren't happy about that one. Her family wasn't happy about that one, but it was very good. And unfortunately, she's like now been made to feel shame, victim of the shame game. And now, oh, I'm so sorry I did that. Well, no, because it was very well done. And we had Mommy Dearest. We had Patty Davis Reagan speaking out. I'm like, yeah, I could write one of those books, but it's been done. Like, can we move on? We know, okay, when you hear like the screaming and yelling and the temper tantrums and the crazy stuff. Um, go on to Real Housewives. it's it's become of epidemic proportions because it's been left out of control for several generations and it's just getting worse. So like I don't need to write another book like that. It's, anybody who's known me in my life, I mean, particularly when I was a child and my siblings, I mean, at least they used to recognize the dysfunctionality of it. But this is old news. There's no reason to go into that. Um, Same with my ex-husband. I mean, this is where with the feminists, with all of the domestic violence, I'm not going to do that. Like Leslie Morgan Steiner, her book, Crazy Love. I was like, no, you're the one who's crazy, lady. I'm sorry. You're crazy. Um, so my ex was never violent. He was controlling, a controlling Spaniard. He went crazy because of the humiliation he went through when he crashed and burned as a banker. So not only is it affecting our banking systems, it's affecting the people who work in them. And that's another reason why it has to be cleaned up and you know, return to sanity. This started when we went off the gold standard, and we can look back to Mike Milken, who has the Mike Milken Institute at GW. When I saw that, I was like, I thought he was still in prison. Oh no, he got out of jail, and you get out of jail. White collar criminals, and now it doesn't matter. White collar. We don't care what color your skin is. White collar criminals, you do your time, and you're welcome back to the club. uh Poor schmucks, the poor ones, the blue collar, again, they don't care what color your skin is anymore. Blue collar criminal, no, you're not finding another job. And this has been, I mean, this is also the African Americans, the Black community. I mean, there has been, and Charlie Kirk had pointed this out several times, like, where is rape most prevalent? Where is it's black on black murders that's more than elsewhere. The blacks have to stop pointing their finger at everybody else and see we're getting into generation after generation, and you can no longer play the race card and discrimination. You've been favored for several generations, but problems are just getting worse. Fatherless families, all sorts of issues, drug addiction, the violence. And part of this has been, I agree, part of it has been the new Jim Crow and government policies that were intended to do this to the Black community. Don't play into their hands. Instead of playing into their hands and then, oh, poor us, give us more favoritism. No, because the favoritism is going into the elite. Look at the Diddy trials. Need I say more? So yeah, this is not great success story there in the bushes with this family. So let's move on to the next, and we'll finish this up. So, okay, so Neil Bush. Let's see, 28 years of marriage, I think it was, and he divorces the wife of his children, and marries a Mexican woman, divorcee, who's 30 years younger. Okay, all of you Virginia Giuffre feminists and Me Too feminist, I've been asking you all this question for I don't know how long. Well, since the whole Me Too started. And you started saying that, adult men sleeping with a minor, anyone who is less than, and this is also, we got to define minor, because sometimes it's a 21-year-old, sometimes it's an 18-year-old. When we get into sexual consent, again, that is depends on the country and the state. Within the United States, it varies state to state. I think it was, because I think one, I forget if New York is 17 or 16 and Florida is 16. There's a 1 year, but still 16 and 17. Okay, so that's the age of consent. Now, pedophilia, we'll look it up in the dictionary, is prepubescent. That means before puberty. Okay? Now, puberty, 13, 14, it really does depend. I mean, let's get graphic. Breasts start forming you have menstruation. They can be, these women can produce children. Now, historically, we didn't live that long. Up until a couple generations, we didn't live very long. So you look, yes, just like in the Middle East, you can find now, they were marrying off girls at 12, 13 years old, and even 9 years old, at 6 years old, 7 years old. However, you weren't allowed to have sexual relations with the child until she became, I mean, there were different decisions until she had her first period, or a certain age. The situation was, well, she's becoming, biologically, she can reproduce. Now, of course, we have learned, you're going to have a higher mortality rate with these younger women having babies, but you had a high mortality rates. You're dying at 40 years old. I mean, the reproductive cycle, we're longer in that because we have longer age, longer lives that we're living. We have better health care. We have less children that are dying in young ages. It's just the situation has changed from 3 generations ago, 4 generations ago. However, biologically, it's still going on the same stuff, and mentally, and socially, the situation is the same. So I've gone in a long, long drawn out explanation of that, just because these women keep on coming up with this and then coming up. Wait, if it is post pubescent, then it is not pedophilia. So let's talk like 13 to 18. We'll set that age. This is not pedophilia. It is not appropriate. And in some cases, it is illegal. However, it is not the same thing as pedophilia. These girls, they now know about sex, and they're actually looking for it, and they're looking for older men. Now, for a 13-year-old, that may be a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. And that's why also with the 16, 17-year-old, no, 13's too young. You want to give her a little peck on the cheek, you want to date her, well, we'll talk about that. But anything further than that, you're going to have to wait a couple of years there. And that's where you're at the moms in the neighborhood watching like hawks. This is why it is important, these jobs. So that's another situation. Okay, so my question for the feminist, is this pedophilia? He married a woman 30 years his junior. Is that pedophilia? Noam Chomsky, his second wife, she's 36 years younger than him. That's the biggest spread I've seen. Mainly, I mean, we got a whole slew of them now. Since all of you guys want a divorce, now every 10 years they change, they trade in an old wife for a new model. 10, 20 years younger. Let's see, is it Carl Bernstein? What is his second wife? Yeah, she's around there, 20 years younger or something. So is that pedophilia? Yeah, you guys make the rules. You guys are setting the standards. And if this is the thing, if you take these rules and you go into it, lean in. I was talking about leaning in. Well, pull their cacophony, lean in, and say, okay, well, here's the situation you've produced. What are we going to do? Now throw you all in jail for pedophilia? That was the objective. So, yeah, that was a big scandal and stuff. And unfortunately, I think the way that played out with her divorce, it just reinforced the biases that women who marry, the frat boys and men in positions of power, just gold digging whores. All right. That's the feminists who are saying that. All of us trailing spouses were gold digging whores. So, I mean, I'm not the one who's setting the standards. I'm just calling a spade a spade. So then their children, we have Lauren, oh my sister, celebrity chef to the stars. She told me, oh yeah, Lauren Bush, she married Ralph Lauren's son, so now she's Lauren Bush Lauren. I was like, oh well, that goes all together. Um, yeah, my sister, she got her start as celebrity chef to the stars in Colorado, um, Telluride, Colorado, working for Ralph Lauren on his ranch. This was back in the 80s. And that's how she got her start. And she's been there ever since. But she even said to me, she said, well, I would never open a restaurant. It's too much work. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, she always tells me what a successful businesswoman she is. What a success. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the question that my siblings said. Okay, yeah, your assets. Okay, okay. Now, can we see where the debt is and how much you scam people out of? Because she's just like my mom. I mean, my mother was always saying, "Do they have money? How much?" See, if I know the social climbers and the gold diggers and the rhetoric and the agendas, unfortunately, I've seen it all my life. All my life, all too close for comfort. Um, so, oh, and Neil Bush, he works. Well, he had dyslexia. Now, this is something dyslexia. Um, this always gives these children inferiority complexes and that they're not as smart and everything. Dyslexia has nothing to do with intelligence. In fact, I've really been tracking um, some dyslexia that I've had. This gets into a lot of the different dyslexia in different forms, like in numbers. I'll have problems with like, and I used to be a trader, stock trader. I mean, boom, 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 I could think, but with 20 years, which is constant bullying, insulting, screaming, yelling. I mean, this was with my husband, but since I've been to DC, I mean, this was for me the lockdown. I was like, oh gosh, thank you. Can I go ahead and wait in my room and just not be around anybody because all they do is scream at me and insult me? Oh God, Amy, the little girl that I work with, she pulled that. I mean, I just takes all of my self control, not to go and like strangle her. That's what she wants me to do. I mean, a condescending little snot-nosed brat of 21 years old who's given me attitude, and I mean, she knows what she's doing. She knows the game that she's playing. It's not going to be not going to be so cocky when she gets into a courtroom. I can assure you. So anyway, yeah. So one of their first daughter, she married David Lauren. He is, let's see, where is that? David Lauren, CEO of the Ralph Lauren Foundation, $36 million in assets, 6 million expenses. Ralph Lauren's net worth is 12 billion. Well, we need to pay off 37 trillion in debt. Thank you very much, Mr. Lauren. Because Ralph, he was a Jew, a poor Jew from the Bronx when he started out. Now he's been riding high. Now but he is the typical rags to riches, profited from as we saw in the Capote Swans, how the Capote Swans made New York the center of the world, and the concentration of money into urban areas with New York at the lead. So he has been cashing in and cashing in and cashing in to Rise of the Fourth Reich. Now, see, this gets in. There's a lot of Jewish families that, you know, have this time around, but we also see it with Marianne Seigart, great great grandfather Rudy Singer in Vienna and Germany. But so the Jews, I mean, they've been pulling out it's not a race, the religion card. This is why I loved it when somebody asked Whoopi Goldberg if you had to be black to be, like a victim of race discrimination. No, that's only for blacks. Yeah, so okay, and so for the religion card, only the Jews. Everybody. Everybody's got to stop playing their cards, and the victim card. Uh, and I mean, over here, Megyn Kelly and Glenn Greenwald. I mean, check that out. I feel like I am watching the Capote Swans and Truman Capote at work today. Glenn Greenwald, I've been knocking on his door. He's a constitutional lawyer. I mean, I'm sorry. The argument that I have prepared challenging the Spanish Constitution and the jurisprudence of González Carreño versus Spain, 2014 CEDA, is brilliant. I challenge anybody. Glenn Greenwald, please explain to me where I'm wrong. Don't tell me that stop telling me I'm a stupid idiot who doesn't know what I'm doing because I'm deposed divorcee, deposed trailing spouse, opting in homemaker, pick your poison. I don't know. I don't care what label you want to give me. Explain to me where I am in wrong in my legal argumentation, how I've prepared these cases, and how I've set this all up. Because I've been knocking on his door for at least 10 years, and he just ignores me. Why? Why are all of you people ignoring me? Explain it. I want an explanation. Can't get it from you in a civil conversation. You can do it in court, but for that, I need a freaking lawyer. Knows what the frick they're doing. And some money to pay for the whole freaking thing. And of course, if nobody gives me a job and nobody will give me any money for my global expat project, I mean, Turning Point, they've got about 80, 90 million in revenue. See, you do need money to do things. I mean, you can't just sit there and I remember Bewitched when I was a child. I was like, oh God, that would be so cool. All I gotta do is twinkle my nose and everything's done. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Anyway, I didn't finish with Ralph Lauren, my big thing. So Ralph Lauren, the clothes that he makes are made in Colombia, in Medellin. Oh God, they just exploit workers terribly. In fact, this is my big beef. When I was living in Colombia, I was like, wait a second, you guys are like top in uh what do you call it, textiles and producing textiles, but you can't find any decent clothes here in the country. They're made in Medellin, then they're exported, sold abroad, and then re-imported to Colombia and sold as imported goods with the luxury tax. Or the Colombians, oh, this has come up as well. Oh yeah, I knew all sorts of Colombians the ones who can afford it, no, they have their children. They go to the United States, have their children because they're born there in case anything happens. Well, then their kids can come to the United States. Uh, Yet I've been canceled by all these Colombians. Um, so, you know, this is really, really, and then also Ralph Lauren. I mean, I loved his stuff in the 70s and 80s. It's crap these days. I mean, all of it's just become a cesspool. Markets are flooded. All the women in this town, well, like goddamn prostitutes. Literally, even in the upscale places, like, is this a red light district or what's going on here? I mean, sometimes I'll walk by and I'll go in, I'll tell the waiters, I'm like, look at table, whatever. I mean, she's got a bra on, got her underwear on. I mean, really, it's really bad, really, really bad. I'm like, how could your mother let you walk out of the house like that? Yeah, I mean, my mother was a piece of work. I remember we used to have to wear a dress one day a week. Friday would always come along, and so I'd put on the dress and then I'd put my shorts in my backpack. And then when I got to school, I'd go in the bathroom and change. Oh God. Yeah. So yeah, so then Lauren, they've got their charity work going on there. Then Lauren, feed the homeless. I've been trying. I mean, my ex-husband, he promised me that I'd become that nobody cared about me and I'd become homeless if I ever left him. And I was like, you're crazy. I'm a hard worker and I like there's tons of things. I have an impressive resume. There's tons of things that I can do. You're crazy. Oh no. For the fact since I've been back, I mean, many a time I've been really afraid of ending up homeless and nobody's gonna help me. Oh, they're just everybody's sitting there like babando, waiting, waiting, hoping. I've even had a landlord that was the Kilborn house. One flew over the cuckoo nest in the Kilborn house, and he said to me, he said, "I'm gonna get you in a tent, living on the streets in a tent." Oh, I'm like, God, if I had a penny, well, a dollar for every time everybody's threatened me with that one, I wouldn't be worried about ending up homeless. Yeah, I remember when Megyn Kelly was like, "You go and get rid of all of those homeless in all of those cities." I was like, Megyn Kelly, guess what? When that happens to you and I come and I take your home and I throw you out in the streets and go, guess what? You're going to be the one homeless. I think you're going to be singing another song on that one. So then we have, let's see, Pierce Bush. Let's see, he's with Big Brother. I can't find much about them. Who is Sarah Beth Melton, his wife? Because can't find much, just that they married in Colorado. So really don't know much about her. Let's see, Julien Lefebvre. I believe he's Hollywood, I do believe. As I say, you've got links. Here, this goes down here. You got links here for all of this stuff. I mean, this is my Global Expats project. This, you guys would give me, here, Turning Point, another, there's 980 million a year. Um, I mean, I don't need what I'm trying to produce is a company that will produce its own income, but I do need, just like all of the other, the platforms for global expats, the social media platform and networking platform, those things cost about 100 million. Now, that's not a lot. Yeah, 100 million is a lot of money, but it is not a lot of money these days for a company, and particularly that. Um, so, well, here, These are my friends in Colombia of the La Moda, the Alta Moda.
Hola, soy Pilar Castaño y ¿cómo me voy a llamar? De la única manera que se puede llamar con compromiso, con entrega y arriesgándome. No me voy a dejar nunca de sentirme así con la moda, porque eso es lo que hace la moda. Llenarnos de sorpresas y inicios de mundo. Sin la vida no hay moda y sin la moda no hay vida.
Soy venezolano, trabajo en la ventana que recorre la red. Y yo veo la moda como una expresión y como reflejo de una cultura. Sea cual sea la moda, se identifica como un momento de la vida, lamentablemente.
Hola, yo soy Vanessa Gregory, la directora de la revista Hola, y vivo la moda con gusto.
Hola, soy Sergio
Yeah.
Barbosa, creador de
Okay, so Pilar Castaño, she's the mother of a good friend of my son's, who's supposedly my son's best friends in Bogota. In fact, everybody goes on about 9/11. Well, nobody thinks about the bombing of the club Nogal in Colombia. I forget which year that would have been. But my son and her son, um, Alejandro, they were in with the school on a trip in France together. Otherwise, they would my husband was pissed off because he had wanted to go to the gym with his boss, the president of Banco Ganadero in Bogota. Um, and he was pissed off because our car was with the in our body. We had a bodyguard. This is why, the whole stuff about security. I'm like, no, it's not fun. All of you people, and I agree. I had this discussion one time with somebody in Bogota, and her husband got killed. That that it's just like a status symbol. And yeah, for a lot of people, they actually like want security, people around, and it makes them feel important to have bodyguards and stuff like that. Megyn Kelly complains about security, but I think the lady does protest too much. So anyway, they would have been in the squash, playing squash, and that was ground zero. They would have been killed instantly, both of them. So, Americans thinking that they're unique in 9/11 and terrorist attacks and all of these issues, they're not. I mean, I thank God. And my husband, as I say, he was at home, but his boss said, you know what? The guy who was on the treadmill, where you would have been had you been there, he went flying out the window and killed instantly. My husband's boss, Luis Juanco, he had to crawl out. He was crawling out on the side of the building, and he said there was smoke everywhere, and he was crawling, there's a couple stories, I don't know, like 4 or 5 stories up or something. He's crawling out trying to find a way down. No, I mean, I know another woman who was in the parking garage when it happened, and her husband and her children were in the club. So, as I say, this is not unique to Americans. Um, so that's Pilar Castaño. I mean, okay, we were never friends, but she's good friends with Ralph Lauren. And she's also good friends with someone who works for Ralph Lauren, Oscar Cuello, who was a friend of mine. He was the boyfriend of a good friend of mine in college, Philip Goldentire. And he's been working for Ralph Lauren for years and years, for the past 30 years or so, more than that, maybe. Um, and he's gay. He was married so he could stay in the United States. See, that's another thing. Excuse me, all of these people. Now, I have nothing against gay people, and it was an illegal marriage. Well, what status does that give him, and also the woman who married him, because she's also of Latina. She's Colombian Dominican, but was born here. So see how this has been used. Now they've canceled me like everybody else. I mean, and I'm not asking anything from anybody, but they could use their contacts to help me instead of, no, just cancel me and go and live on a street and, jump off a bridge. See this thing? Oh, it was Doug Shar. He's he's part of this gay group that I knew from my college years here in Washington. Now, his father is Dwight Shar, uh, bankruptcy building real estate guy here in DC and Palm Beach. He said to me, "Oh, you never know who your friends are. You don't know if your friends are your friends because they like you or because you have $1 million home and give fabulous parties." I knew exactly what he was talking about. So, I mean, I haven't been, how shall I say, I haven't been surprised by my cancellation from everybody and really the hatefulness. I mean, I've got a lot of it. Um, I haven't been surprised. I've been sadly uh, not surprised. And I guess maybe that's also because I'm like, well, whatever, I'm not on anybody's invite list, really. A lot of those, I mean, all of these people who want to go and be queens and kings and get in receiving lines and do all of this charity work and all of this pomp and circumstance. I'm like, people, you need to get a life because that's the most boring shit that you're ever going to do in your entire life. I mean, I got a small enough taste of that to know that it's no fun. I just can't understand why anybody would want, the whole red carpet stuff. Really, try it out before you actually desire a life of that. So let's see. Then we've got Ashley Bush over here. Let's see what she does. Hmm. Sharon Ashley Bush. The siblings grew up in the spotlight. Uh, Lauren officiated at Ashley's wedding. Oh, this is who she's married to, Julian Lefebvre. I think he's an actor. I can't remember exactly what he does, but all the links are there for everybody if anybody wants to look at all of these individual people. But my point being, um, you know, hear what the family, you know, are doing these days. And when you are, when you are born into entitlement, I mean, this is the whole thing. When you are born into a position of power, with that and privilege, with that comes responsibility. And not just, oh, party hardy and look at me, I'm so lucky. And everybody should aspire to be as lucky and as entitled as I am. And I can go around, get drunk, and get arrested as many times as I want, and nobody's going to say anything. Oh, and I didn't finish with Pilar Castaño. I started with the Pilar Castaño, but Clemencia, who was after that, there was the gentleman and then Clemencia Gregory. Well, she was my neighbor in Bogota. We lived in the same conjunto. So, I mean, I, we've known each other for 30 years. And then she was my neighbor in Madrid. And she saw everything that happened when we first bought the house, they had gone back to Madrid before her husband's Spanish. They had gone back to Madrid before we had gotten there a couple of years. And we just ended up, I mean, in the same neighborhood and like a block away. And so she saw everything that was going on and knew about my project and how things with my ex are just getting worse and worse and worse. And then what went on with the divorce. Now, she's, an actress and model. And I mean, this is kind of like with Megyn Kelly. I mean, Megyn Kelly, when she's not trashing somebody or she's not, when she pours out the like Catholic um sympathy stuff, yeah, I don't buy it for one moment. No. See, she's like Clemencia. Um, I mean, Clemencia, she's like has a lot of good ideas and stuff, and she was like, "Oh, we should open a restaurant." And if she'd come on board with, I would have been delighted. She could have helped with getting some money, some, you know, public PR work for global expats. I mean, you know, she could have gotten up on podiums and done all of the PR stuff and all of the advertisement stuff, which she loves to do and she's good at. Um, but again, you know, she told me years ago, oh yeah, I did this documentary on the problems of the drugs in Colombia. I'm like, yeah, excuse me, Amaryllis Fox, Kennedy's daughter-in-law, did that too when she was how many months pregnant? That's like beating a dead horse. Excuse me, that you guys, that's been done so many times. Like, why haven't you said anything, exposed anything about what's going on in the courts? You guys are all doing documentaries. Why don't any of you do any of that? And no. Everybody's enjoying what I've been going through. Um, so and also when I was going through my divorce, this is 2008, 2009, when I finally made it out alive of Spain, this is when Alec Baldwin divorce and his whole custody battle and the thing, what is his daughter's name, Ireland, I think, and him calling her a pig and it being on recorded, and that is a recording that you'll still, they're pulling it out today again to go to come up against him. And I was like, I had already been through the courts enough to be like, okay, yeah, he shouldn't have said that, but I can understand how he's so angry. And then I'd listen to the entire phone conversation where it's just a monologue on his because he's leaving a message because she's not answering. And I understand why he was so angry. And really, this is unfair to him. Totally unfair to him. And then the whole thing about him shooting, oh my God, the feminists have really gone on board on that one. Him shooting the woman on the set. Of course he did not, of course he didn't mean it. Oh God. And now his wife, that poor man keeps on going downhill. His wife, I mean, the funny thing is okay, everybody's found out what is her name. She's given it like a Spanish ring. She's not from Spain, she's from Boston. I'm like, oh, okay, wait a second, you guys. Ah, if she is claiming to be Spanish, can we deport her and send her back to Spain and we can deport the children as well? She's claiming she's of Spanish origin. So can I have her deported? See how complicated their stupidity is making them. Okay, so then let's see. Oh, the Ashley Bush, the queen's clothes. So I guess she's into the la moda and stuff. But this always, these are all jobs that women have been doing, how homemakers help the economy. Some say American economy would grow billions of dollars if moms would work outside the home. They're measuring wrong. This is a real, I keep on quoting this. And there's even Janet Yellen who's in here of the Fed. Yeah, her husband wrote a book, Fishing for Fools. I'm like, Janet Yellen, you should have read your husband's book and heeded his words. He was at the IMF when he wrote that. I went to the book signing with that, only to find they only care about books signed. They don't read the books. So yeah, these are all jobs. The fashion industry, the cooking, all of these things are the intellectual property of women throughout history. Now, is anybody paying royalties to the women, to the homemakers? No, they're calling them gold digging whores and they're exploiting their intellectual property. Um, so Martha Stewart, she was one piece of work, but typical role model of the American ruling elite for, I mean, at least my mother's generation, if not before. I mean, well, this goes back, yeah, it goes back to the Gilded Age, and the Astors and the Vanderbilts and their rise to power. Let's see, another one of Megyn Kelly, Ralph Lauren, Life and Fortune. Here is, this is, as I say, Baking for Good. Hope Jones, she's on the board of trustees of Foxcroft. I want to see them in court. Totally woke. They've canceled me from their courageous conversation. You know, just look at Foxcroft, see what's going on, what's wrong with this country. Celebrity, the original celebrity chef, Julia Childs. She was a CIA agent. Um, so, you know, as I say, we want not only do we want reparations for slavery, no, the African Americans, they better shut up on that one because we're going to be taking all their money when it gets there. So, reparations for turning us into slaves and not recognizing our work and our intellectual property and not properly paying us royalties for all of the money that you're making from all of this. Um, but guess what? There's a $36 million judgment from Ingrid Betancourt and her son in the United States, secures 36 million judgment for son of former FARC hostage, Ingrid Betancourt. So let's see. And this is because he was for damages done, pain and suffering caused when Ingrid was kidnapped when her son was 15 years old and he was separated from his mother. So all of the women who have had their children taken and alienated from them, each child, we get $36 million for each child. So let's see, with my two sons alone, I've almost got the 100 million I need. And we're going to pay all of these women. Now, lots and lots of victims are like, we want capital punishment for the criminals in the court systems. Maybe this is because I don't believe in capital punishment. I like Charlie Kirk. See, I don't support abortions because that is killing a life. And I don't approve that. What I want is a society where we have no unwanted pregnancies. And, in the case, you're going to have a small portion, of some sort of health problem where that might be. But Charlie Kirk was saying that really, by the time that you have a health problem, because normally the child will, like I had a fausse couche. What do we call that? Oh, I did this in French. Oh, I can't think of the word. I'm sorry. It's coming to me in English, in French. Um, but so I lost a fetus. But as he said, well, you weren't removing a child, you were removing a corpse. Um, you know, so normally if there is some problem with the fetus, nature will take its course. I mean, my sister and I always, agreed with that. She kind of said, well, it wasn't meant to be. It was God, it's God's way of, you know, taking care of a child that is not going to be able to survive outside the womb. So, you know, this whole thing, I don't, if you support and defend the sanctity of life, you have to do it all spectrums and in all situations. So I do not support capital punishment under that. Taking a life is taking a life, and that's only God who has the authority, if you will. We all have the power to do that. Now, self-defense is another issue. And in fact, this gets into women who are physically inferior. Well, the feminists hate when you use that word. And so if a man is coming at you and you're afraid of your life, it's your husband, and you end up killing him, well, that is self-defense, but the courts are not accepting it as self-defense. Now, what I want is to work towards families and communities where you're not going to end up with a situation with a man like that. You're going to have somebody intervening, which is what I asked everybody in my case. Would you talk to him and tell him he's got to calm down? Because also, what I learned, his brother was there stoking the flames. So not only was I in a situation where nobody was helping me or defending me, um, everybody was like, "Yeah, go, 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 go." That's dirty pool. And also I keep on pointing out, excuse me, I I weigh half of what he was weighing, a bit overweight now, but still half his weight. It's not a fair fight. Not a fair fight. And you shouldn't be putting women in that position and expecting, just, well, too bad. If it kills you, it kills you. So anyway, yeah. So that's where Ingrid's 2022 presidential bid. I've got a link there. I'm like, yeah, Ingrid, if you would spend a little less time going to the courts trying to get some money. I mean, this whole thing, first she was going to sue in Colombia because she was a victim, a kidnapped victim. There's a law there. Then she was like, poo 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 and shut up there. So she came to the States and brought in a court case. I mean, what pisses me off, it's just, this is gold digging. This is gold. All she cares about is money and power. I want to see that there. Um, Now, her father, Gabriel Betancourt, and this I've talked about in other videos, he was the one or was involved with liberal immigration policies for students in the United States, foreign students in the United States under the Kennedy administration. It was Alliance for Progress. He was involved in all of that. Uh, yeah, see the results generations later. See, it's not just the Bushes, the Kennedys, the Betancourt, Sinclair, Sygart, boom, boom, boom. The Saxe-Coburg, the Windsors, the Bourbons, the ones that are left that haven't lost their heads. So, it goes on and on and on. Everybody's been complicit for generations, and we got to stop. We need a new paradigm. I mean, this is Riane Eisler, Power of Partnership. She talks about all of this stuff. See, I've read all of these books, and I'm tired of going on and repeating and repeating and re-repeating and re-repeating, and nobody listens. I mean, just look at how many views there are of my videos on the internet or my blogs on LinkedIn, because everybody else, I was blogging for Huffington Post for a while. They could have taken that. No, Ariana Huffington, she's Greek. Another case in point of gold digging whores. And Sinclair, oh gosh, that gets into another, Jewish family. where history is repeating itself with Hitler and her husband, who was head of the IMF. So, as I say, it's just the same families time and time and time again, and everything just keeps repeating themselves. So, now we get into, and I am finishing up. It's going to be almost 4 hours. So this is Nancy Bush Ellis. So this is Prescott Jonathan Bush. This is 43, George, President 43, Bush sister. And Alex Ellis, I forget exactly. I mean, he's, white collar. I forget if he's lawyer or whatever. Lawyer, politician, journalist, it's all the same. So, and these are all, I've put in all of these different emblems. These are all the different schools that they've gone to, showing with the Bushes, Andover was a big favorite. Yeah, Marvin going to Woodberry. Woodberry was not a favorite of theirs, but I don't know how Marvin ended up there. So yeah, well, we got Choate here as well. But and Yale is a favorite of theirs. Nancy went to Vassar. Okay, Vassar, Smith, maybe Rollins College. There's a whole group. I mean, the girls, uh, Ivy League colleges, they're no different than the girls' prep schools. So it's just a repeat, and it's like, oh God, okay. My older sister, she went to Smith, went to Tulane first, but then Smith. So anyway, yeah, another example. This is with my younger sister. I'm like, mom and dad didn't have to pay all that money for Foxcroft. Okay, we won't talk about the Pell Grant from Boston. I keep on telling her shouldn't mention that. Because she didn't get it very kosherly. So, yeah, that was wasted money. My sisters, Tulane and Smith, wasted money. And I'm not talking about because they didn't, do something with it professionally. I'm talking about you don't need to spend all that money on education to become a dumb bimbo and a backstabbing bitch. So anyway, we've got Nancy Bush. Now, if we start looking into her children and her grandchildren, I'm trying to finish this up so people can go on. Again, I have all the links. I guess there's a couple of links. I'll fill those in that aren't in here, but I'll put them in there and you can link and, click on to the profiles of each person and kind of who they are and what they're doing. But again, it's all, cashing in, cashing in, cashing in. Here, so with these people, what I'd really like to highlight is Jonathan Bush. Now there's an article, here it is, The Doomsday Investor. This is definitely to read because, and here a video on it. I mean, see, even the Bushes, he just wants, and I mean, I think it's a good company he started, and it's with the IT, but it's with healthcare. I think it sounds like a very, very good project. I mean, come on. This is a margin guy. He's going to come in and a raider, a corporate raider. He's going to take it over. Hey, and he's successful. But how much money and resources and energy was wasted on this? Now, this has been going on. This started back in the 70s when we started, we got off the gold standard of high risk, high yield, high risk, high yield. Again, Mike Milken was the original on that, but so many people read Michael Lewis, The Big Short. That gives a good lowdown on, what's been going on in the system. here is another victim and another part of the game that needs to stop. And these assholes need to be run out of town. And they shouldn't have the access to the financial resources that is allowing them to do this. Um, so I wish Jonathan Bush, instead of just rolling over and starting a new company and saying, well, okay, they fucked me, so well, too bad. Um, oh God, Joe Rogan. This is one of my favorite new words, a smile fuck. He said, you go to it was in reference to HHS, where Bobby is. They smiled, fucked me. And he said, oh, that's what they do on Capitol Hill. All of the congressional members, staffers, they smile, fuck you. We got a name. We had the definition. Now we have something to call it. I thought that one was brilliant because it really, really, really is the crux of what they do. See, if I had a small army of women with rolling pins, I'm like, leave your guns at home, bring a rolling pin, make it plastic, so because they might say if it's a real like one that you really could knock them over the head. Bring them some plastic ones so they can't even say that we're bringing in dangerous arms or anything. Go up to Capitol Hill, to one congressional member to another. We're pissed off and we're not taking this anymore. And we're going to sit here and you're going to listen to us. And if we got enough people and enough pissed off people to just go and, non-violent sit-ins, and we are not going away, and you're not going to be rude, and if you little snot-nosed brat is rude to me, I'm going to start calling up your mother and giving her a piece of my mind about what she is producing and sending to our nation's capital. And then you can get it from her. See, this is how women get things done. And this is how moms get things done. You don't go to the source. You go to the source's mother. And you tell her you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself for bringing up such a sinvergüenza. See, that's how it works. Um, and you get lots of, oh gosh, you tell a mom that her children are shameful people. Worst insult you can do in the world. Yeah, so we got Billy Bush over here. Oh God, Billy Bush. This, yes, think I think Megyn Kelly plays it on this. I have to. This is one place that I do agree with Megyn Kelly. Oh come on, yeah. uh, uh, I mean, yeah, come on, wasting money. Okay, so the thing was, he was the one. Hold on, gonna, yeah, I wanted to finish this, unfortunately. So listen to that. But yeah, so Billy Bush, he was the one, the hot mic. That was the one who that recorded Trump saying, "Yeah, you can grab him by the P word. That they'll let him do anything that you want. These models and these beauty queens." And the hot mic was Billy Bush, but he didn't realize, he didn't even know about he didn't even think about the he explains all that, when Trump said that, it didn't even really register. He had been talking about a colleague of Billy, and he was more concentrated on that or something than when the whole scandal broke in the news. And that was years after it had happened, because Trump is running for president. Poor Billy Bush, he gets caught in the crossfire because he's saying Trump didn't know he was being recorded. I'm sorry, you guys. You cannot, post that. You cannot use that. And for standing up for ethics, he got fired. And as I say, he was an innocent bystander, and he was a victim of the crossfire. So I felt bad for Billy Bush in all of that. But see how he felt. He was like, "You raised me like a child," how. So there's this cult, like culture within these corporate, at least within the entertainment world, that is highly dysfunctional. But again, I mean, Megan Kelly in this one, I know she plays that moment where Trump is being questioned about whether he actually said that, and he goes, "Yeah," and it's yeah, it's true. It has been for millions of years like that. Even with AJ Gentil and the Y files, the fish, he even says something. He's got a comment about that. Okay, anybody who doesn't know AJ Gentil and the Y files, that's a really good thing to look at. But even the fish has a comment about that one. Yeah. But so here's John Ellis. But see, this is a funny thing. You got to watch, and so these guys are cousins. But this is where you can see the spectrum. We talk about the autism spectrum. We could maybe call this the Bush spectrum, the elitist spectrum. I don't know what you want to call it. But yeah. So you got Billy Bush journalism there with Access Hollywood, and John Ellis over here, uh, like, you remember why everybody used to fall asleep with these guys. Come on. Yeah, they love that. Oh yeah. This is another publicity they love to give me. Yeah, so this guy, he's, old school, um and just struggling to survive. I would say he's like the Matthew Dodd that we saw earlier that got caught in the crossfire. And really, I mean, I would almost argue he might have been set up for that whole thing. Because as he says when he starts his dialogue, he says, well, building on the conversation that you all have had, and adds his 2 cents in. I mean, that as I say, they had been setting up the conversation and brought him in. Did they set him up? Was that entrapment? I don't know, but you could definitely, there's definitely enough evidence that would have been the case. Possibly. So this is, I just got one more slide. So this is another member. This is James Bush. This is do we go back? Where's this? Over here, James Bush. So see, this is Prescott, which is George, because the oldest was Prescott. Look at that family. This was an older son that didn't make it. And so it was the second son who became president and then brought in, the grandson from Prescott. Now, James Bush over here is Prescott brother. And my Lord, when I was going through this, I was like, I can't even get to the children because I can't get past all of the wives. You know, he got a divorce, then he married a wife. Well, that wife, but then she had been married before and married after, so she's got 3 or 4 husbands. But then each of those husbands have 3 or 4 wives. I was like, my Lord, I can't even get past this one James Bush and everybody that he marries and that they married. So here's a couple of people. So there's George Shaw. There was, okay, so you got James Bush, who was married to Caroline, and then he was also married to this Janet Newbold. But now, so it's really the Janet that was interesting. So Janet Ryan Stewart Bush. But those are her married names. So, and then here is the, different people that she was the most beautiful woman in New York and on the first best dressed list. Okay, yeah. She may have known how to dress, but she didn't know how to handle a marriage. Um, so this is Alan Ryan. Then Alan Ryan was married to Priscilla St. George. And let's see, Priscilla St. George, she was also married to this Grace. And then Priscilla St. George, this is her daughter, Catherine Delano Ryan, whose father is the Ryan in this, Alan Ryan. See? And then she was married, let's see, one of her husbands was John Aldrich, and then Daniel Selznick, who is the son of what is that? David Selznick, I believe it is. Yeah, David Selznick. And so that's the Hollywood Selznick family. And so she was the granddaughter, and the Catherine St. George was the first cousin of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and attended Madeira and St. Lawrence. Oh, St. Lawrence, that's like Vassar and Smith and all that. So what I liked about this, so this history of a time long past. So in a nutshell, okay, so Mr. Astor, I forget which Astor this is, but he's a very unpleasant man. Mr. Astor has a great fortune, but he's not a very pleasant man. So his wife, second wife, I guess, told Vincent that she wanted a divorce. Vincent was very troubled, not by her wanting a divorce, but by how he was going to live without a wife. He insisted that Minnie stay until she found one for him. He sends his current wife, go and find me a new wife, and then I'll give you a divorce. Okay, so she suggested Janet Stewart. That's Janet over here, whom she knew had the right birthright for Vincent. She suggested that Vincent ask her himself to show what a gentleman was. And so the day came when Vincent traveled down the avenue to visit Janet Stewart, the most beautiful woman in New York, etc. He explained to Janet that Minnie wanted a divorce and would Janet marry him. And Janet allegedly replied, "Marry you? I don't even like you. Why would I marry you?" And Vincent allegedly countered, "Well, I'm not in a good health and I don't know how much longer I've got. And well, there's my estate." And that was it. And as it happened, that story about Mrs. William Rhinelander Stewart telling Vincent Astor to get lost spread around the world of the post-Gilded Age in New York. A recent widow herself, Brooke Marshall, heard about Vincent Astor's dilemma and got herself a brief volunteering at a retreat up in Connecticut where Vincent would occasionally go to dry out. And it was there that he met the apparently caring and attractive Mrs. Marshall, widow, alas, but nevertheless. And one thing led to another, and she became the last Mrs. Astor, a role which she played with finesse, although it wasn't an easy or pleasant task. And indeed, 6 years into the marriage, both she and he had retained divorce lawyers. Then Vincent Astor died in bed and left his widow a rich woman. But even more importantly, the final word in delivering his vast foundation to these charities and projects were his final noble bequest. So anyway, but then Brooke Astor, her son then starts scamming money from the trust fund, and apparently she's living in uncomfortable situations. My understanding is better than mine. So I even talked to Philip Marshall because he intervened because she became victim of all the guardian ad litem scams, which is here I care a lot. This movie explains the whole thing. Very good movie. And here's the end of the Astor era. So she's in there, and I spoke with him, Philip Marshall. Is it Phil? Yeah, I think it's Philip. Oh, I forget. I think it's Philip. But anyway, so she spoke with him. I spoke with him, and he's like, "Well, good. These are human rights violations and stuff." But yeah, he's too busy with his nonprofit. You can go in there, but he, like everybody else, goes out and gives speeches. So, here you have this family, and once again, these are not success stories. This is not the great American dream is a fractured fairy tale. And the Kool-Aid they want to sell is laced not only with cyanide, but other things that'll kill you. So we will end here with this gets into, again, out of the same James Bush line. Then we have, that goes down Janet, and then there's Alice Lamb. Her son is, let's see, Pete. Now it looks like Pete is gay, although he did get married and have some children, I do believe. What is that? I don't know who his wife was. I couldn't find that. But it does appear that but then he passed away. I don't know if that was aid related or what was going on there. But so that's his obit. But then here, Telluride. As I say, this is where my sister has been living for the past well, since the 80s, so we're talking 40 years, as celebrity chef for the stars and stuff like that. And I remember one time she was telling me, oh yeah, the Telluride Film Festival and and I'm like, excuse me, like you guys are just making money off of all of these documentaries. Oh yeah, but these documentaries, they're raising awareness. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I've been raising awareness with my campaigns on the internet for the past 10 years. I mean, this is years ago, 15 years, and you guys are not looking at it. I was like, all of the documentary people I want to see in court along with everybody else because all they do, they're the same documentary, same document. They're just spewing out. Is just like the charities. Do something about another war, another war, another war. This is mentioned a friend of hers, Jordan Campbell. I'm like, oh, great, another documentary. And here's Cornelia, here's, So, yeah, this is not the great American dream. Is a fractured fairy tale that everybody's been selling for a long time, and it's got to stop. So that's the end of the presentation. That's for today, and have a nice evening. Bye.